Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
going on, everybody? The work thing wrapped up at the curiously similar time, truly curiously similar to when the timer was going to run out. And so with like 30 seconds left, I was like, well, I'm not even like totally ready yet, but we'll just wing it. Yeah, we're okay. We're here. And here's my 2 cents, okay? Y'all, we did it. Sort of. We mostly did it, right? We have made it to the point of the season where we can finally just focus on what's in front of us. Like we don't have to look. I love the preseason as much as the next person. It's basically a preview of football. Plus, especially when you've got a rookie quarterback like Caleb Williams. How you doing, Michael? What's up, Dark Wolf? How you doing, Robert? Christopher, how you doing? I'll get to that question in a minute. Xelion, how you doing? Martin, what's up? Zach, how are you doing? Ryan, Matthew, everybody, y'all are great. Meatball Island, for sure. Like, that's totally true. But also, to Preston's point, guys, I think one of the hardest parts about this Bears offseason, I'm sure I've mentioned it before. Yeah, I know, Jibby, you're telling me. I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but in my opinion, swap what? Kimura, how you do? Oh, sup. Sorry. I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but the Bears Twitter civil war made us so thoughtful about what the teams would look like behind every Bears quarterback under the sun that we have already had most of the discussions that we could possibly have. And we already had them. We have had them since February. Harothic, what's up? May, June, July. We exactly, Case. We have been guessing at things that we have had too much change to fully know. And that's okay to say. I think it is. Where can we look at what Matt Eberflus is going to do in 2024 or did in 2023 and speculate on 2024? We can do it. What answers are we really going to get? Can we look at Shane Waldron like we did against Seattle and speculate on how he's going to run the Caleb Williams offense? We did. I actually think we came away with some really strong takeaways. I don't know about you guys, but all that Seattle tape that we watched has made it really easy for me to integrate with what it is that Seattle's doing, or not Seattle, the Shane Waldron's doing in Chicago. It's not exactly the same, but a lot of those horizontal moving concepts, quick resolving passing identities, the idea that the play seems to be focused on getting 1 to 2, maybe 3, and then moving on from there. All of that makes total sense. Truly total sense. But at the end of the day, we have always been needing to wait until real games counted for anything to really make a difference. It's part of the reason that it's 9:30. I'm kind of taking this stream as I got to put something out because I make basically a promise to you guys. But also, I don't normally just run the tape as I rant, but we don't really have a lot of time tonight. So that's what we're going to do, right? But that's fine. All of this is fine because I can't help or that's the funny thing, Matthew. I can't help but look at this tape in particular and say, as much as I want to tell you that preseason week 3 means a lot, there are nearly no starters. What's up, Khalid? On the field. That means that the play speed's a little different. And if you want to find something, you can. Like, for instance, say what you will about the fact that he was up against threes. It was good for Velus to flash the reason that speed makes any difference at all and get some experience charging down lanes. Velus in particular has a 3rd and 1. We don't have to go over it. It's not that big a deal. But I appreciated the fact that they gave Velus the ball and a power down and he was able to get the yards. And those kinds of things might have been part of the reason that that the Bears kept him. Hard to know. But Khalid, I don't think anybody's going to downplay the Titans. If anything, Jibby and everybody else, that guy, the Titans are a very funny team. A very funny team. Because I do think that the Titans have a lot of talent on their roster. I also think that across the board, the roster feels a lot more like a hodgepodge to me than it does a series of units. I mean, you look at almost everybody on that roster and they've got a pretty hefty asterisk. And that's not me trying to be a homer. It's more me saying, okay, so they have Calvin Ridley, but it's 30-year-old Calvin Ridley, who Jacksonville didn't hang on to for any number of reasons. So then he went in free agency. And they've got D-Hop, but it's 32-year-old D-Hop, who seems like he's hampered by some soft tissue injuries. And it's Tony Pollard, and Pollard's a beast. But It's also Tony Pollard that's coming off of a major knee injury. I think it was a knee injury, right? Um, and all of this being quarterbacked by Will Levis behind an offensive line that's got a very good left side. I mean, as far as I'm remembering, it's Lloyd Cushenberry, Peter Skoronsky in his second year, now J.C. Latham. But I couldn't tell you who that right side is. And Matthew, you mentioned you feel bad for Latham because Sweat should feast. Sweat's going to play on the other side of the ball. So whoever the right tackle is for Tennessee, who I do not remember being a particularly great tackle, that's the guy that Sweat's going to go against. And J.C. Latham, who's a very good tackle. I don't know how his feet are. A couple people I know I saw hating on his feet. I did not have time to really dig in to what was going on with Latham in his college tape. I liked him enough. But anyways, he'll be going up against what is more than likely going to be DeMarcus Walker and Darrell Taylor switching back and forth, which we are going to try talk some Darrell Taylor, but I owe you guys some film. It's why I'm just fast watching through it here, and we'll go from there. Anyways, as far as the Titans go, I don't want to make it sound like I'm dogging on the Titans. They have talent, right? But as opposed to teams like the Packers, where not only do they have talent, but they have talent all over the roster, the Titans have enough talent to be definitely formidable. The Bears are not about to play the Panthers. But also, I think that where the Titans don't have a big name, they don't really have depth on the roster that's there to shock you or surprise you. I mean, granted, the Bears are unproven. The Bears are starting a rookie quarterback, but I also can't help but look at the Titans and see an incredibly dangerous defensive line. I mean, at the very worst, you're going to say it's a pretty doggone dangerous defensive line. But then you need L'Jarius Sneed to translate the way that he did against Kansas City in a Steve Spagnuolo defense that has all kinds of pieces. You have linebackers that have a long way to go. And one of the linebackers that I imagine they'll start, I mean, I guess I don't know, but I imagine they'll start the guy they just traded with the Rams for. But now he's learning the defense over 2 weeks, and then he's going to start. And so I don't want to make it sound like I'm hating on the Titans. I'm not. Like that guy's saying. I mean, when you look at the Bears' schedule, especially for the first 8 weeks, I would tell you that I think it's really fun because the Bears. If you looked at the next 8 to 9 teams that the Bears play, I would tell you that I think the Titans are pretty much right in the middle of how these teams line up. The Titans are worse than the Rams. The Titans are worse than the Texans. I'm interested as whether you guys think, which would you rather play? Okay, like who do you think is worse, the Titans or the Jaguars, right? And so I'm interested. I'm very. I just made a comment. I just dug on myself about how on the podcast I say I'm very interested way too often these days. So I'm going to try to cut that phrase. It pops up way too often when I don't know what adjective to use. But the Titans are your classic NFL team, I think, that looks as if they're trending towards a 7-10 season. I mean, you guys think that number's fair? I do. Where they're talented enough to where they won't lose that many games. But then you also look further than that, and I don't feel like they have the kinds of pieces that will put them over about a 7-win team. Like they're too good to be bad, but I don't feel like they have a lot of what makes teams good either. It's kind of messy. I guess a lot of it depends on Brian Callahan and whoever they brought in to establish their defense. But like you're saying, Case, you say the Titans are kings of being mid, and I think that makes them a really interesting benchmark where that guy mentioned that it's a scary game. Of course it's a scary game. Truly, Rob Daniel, what's up? Lisan, their wide receiver 2 is probably D-Hop, just because I would imagine Calvin Ridley is their wide receiver 1. But new poster, Vegas having them at 6.5 makes me feel better because I do think it's easier to be 7-10 than it is to be 6-11. That may sound out of balance, but it is harder to be bad than it strikes people's mind. Maybe the Titans will figure it out and manage to do it anyways. But really, this goes back to, I couldn't believe this, by the way. Okay, you guys tell me, am I wilding? I saw people say that this pass was too fast. Catch the ball. You've got your hands up for it. Catch the ball. Like, I know it's behind him. I know. I'm aware. You're an NFL running back who's known for catching the football. It. I'm with you, new poster. I don't ever want to pretend. Ever. Not once, right? I don't ever want to pretend that I'm not aware that a lot of footballs are out of place. But the more we go back and we watch, uh, the more we go back and we watch DK Metcalf and Packers receivers and anybody that seems to play the Bears sometimes, there are plenty of these throws where the ball's a little behind, or the ball's a little out front, or the ball's a little high. And I believe, so Lisan Al-Khalib mentions, if your hands touch it, you should catch it. I think that there is a little, that can go a little far, where your hands can be way up here and you don't come down with it, or worse, you get the guy who catches it as they're getting hit and you go, their hands touched it, they should catch it. And I do think we take that a little far, but no space around Homer right here. Ball thrown on the wrong shoulder, but still within pad range. I'm sitting here like, catch football. That maybe I'm being too old-minded here, but I can't help and look at that. Like you're saying, Dark Wolf, exactly. Fastball, and it's behind him. Also, this is professional football, not college football. And let's remember, it is 4th and 1. And if this is Tyson Bagent. This is Tyson Bagent right here. If it was Caleb and that was Swift, I would say, make a play for your quarterback. And so that's what I'll say here, where I remember watching this and I was like, oh my goodness, can we make a play instead? Because look at this. Look at this. He's at the first down marker. Like, where he falls, I think the first down marker is the 45. No, it's 44. But so at this point, it's like, there's a moment where you could put the brakes on, stop, turn up field, and fall down. But whatever. So Jibby mentioned something. No, that's the thing, new poster. I'm not trying to hate Travis Homer. I've frankly talked too much mess on Travis Homer. I'm taking it too far because he's a teamer, and that's what he's there for. So we're happy for Homer that he was able to do that, right? But let's oh man, camera angle here did not help us at all, did it? No, it didn't. We just see that he fell. Man, he's so leaked out. Oh, that's a shame. Anyways, I want Waldron and the talent around Caleb to not make him be in 3rd and 7 situations. Yeah, no, that guy, this is going to be a big, big game for the extended running game. I think you'd agree with that, right? Bubble screens to DJ Moore, slip screens to DeAndre Swift. The running game. This is the week, if Waldron can do it, to figure out how to dump the ball off to Cole Kmet running spacing, to run Hank. I know O'Sullivan hates it, but run Hank. Get a tight end over the ball. Throw him the rock. Run stick a lot. Let Keenan Allen run a bunch of option routes. Make Caleb make a total of 8 plays, maybe. Get there later. But for now, just let the talent on your offense do the work on behalf of your quarterback. But I think it's so funny, Travis, because I don't think Hank or Curls are awful, but the first offense I really studied was like the Nagy Andy Reid West Coast offense, and they love timing routes, and a good timing route makes me so happy. It really does, Travis. Maybe you and I are like-minded in that way, but while O'Sullivan and so many others want crossing routes and routes that run and can go get you yak, and I'm all for that, I totally get it. There are times where an anticipated timing route is just a free 8 yards, because if you run it right, it's almost completely uncoverable, and it is so nice. It's so nice watching that. Justin Herbert does these all the time. Do y'all remember the Bears-Chargers game? Because the Bears-Chargers game that they played last year with Bagent was just Justin Herbert ripping uncoverable timing routes to both boundaries of the field. Just this one goes to Allen. This one goes to Quentin Johnson. This one goes to Quentin Johnson. This one goes to Allen. Third down, timing route to Allen. Third down, timing route to Allen. Just over and over and over and over and over. It's cool when it works. But anyways, like you're saying, I think it's going to need to be a nasty game. But I also, okay, can I be real with you guys? It's probably disclaimer. I'm a Bears fan that feels like he's been patient. And the moment you get that patient attitude is when you make a mistake and you lean too far in and you kind of turn into a homer. So I want you to know that I'm aware of it, but give me a minute and let me say my thoughts. I don't expect the Bears to rock up to the Titans and blow them out or anything. But also, I feel like we're applying a lot of rookie quarterback rules to Caleb Williams. Justifiably, he is a rookie quarterback that have not always constrained number one overall picks the way that they constrain literally every other pick. Have we all seen the Dave Kluge article? Because I'm about to show it. Let me know if you haven't seen it, because if I'm going to show it. Because I think it's really cool. I've talked about it a lot on Twitter. I don't think I've talked about it on this channel specifically. And to be honest with you guys, I always forget that not everybody follows me religiously on Twitter. That's cool. You definitely don't have to. Twitter's kind of a nasty place sometimes. But Dave Kluge, Caleb Williams. This is an article that Dave wrote just recently. I'm pretty tight with him. It is called Why the Bears Need to Draft Caleb Williams. He wrote it in February when it was actually a thing, like where we were still discussing it. But one of the things that I thought was most interesting is that he was looking at success rates of number one overall quarterbacks, right? Where what he's looking at is under what circumstances does a quarterback have a 4,000-yard passing season? This is ever, right? Have a 30-yard touchdown season, make 80-plus career starts, win a playoff game, or make a Pro Bowl. Okay, so this is an or list that you also put together for and sake. Obviously, Bryce Young did not pass this, but so over the last 30 years, 20 quarterbacks have been selected with the number one overall pick. What were the percentages of this? 70% of 4,000-yard 70% of number one overall quarterbacks have a 4,000-yard season. 45% throw for 30 touchdowns. 81% make 80 starts. 65% win a playoff game. 70% win a Pro Bowl. And let's not forget that most of those quarterbacks, while granted this is done over the 4 years, generally speaking, this is also mostly from number one overall picks like Jared Goff, for instance, and Trevor Lawrence being another that started on god-awful teams. And Caleb has the luxury of not being on a god-awful team. You don't have to say it's an incredible team or something like that. It's more pointing out that most of these quarterbacks had less to use on their behalf than Caleb did. But just in case you're reading ahead, because you should be, every other first-round quarterback, all other first-round quarterbacks, all of them, look at the way the hit rates drop. You go from 70 to 25. You go from 45 to 24. You go from 81 to 35. You go from 65 to 38. You go from 70% to 33. So cut and dry across the board. At least your chances double according to this math for any of these categories if you're talking about a number one overall pick. Not Caleb Williams, like not generational player. You could break out the G word, you could not break out the G word, but like just sticking at number one overall pick quarterback, you have near double the additive statistical odds of hitting these benchmarks over the last 20 years. At least that's what quarterbacks say, compared to if you draft any other quarterback in the first round. And I say this because where I'm struggling is that I think a lot of us Bears fans are couching our perspective in our feelings of the last couple of years. I mean, Robert Lee, for instance, I love the enthusiasm. I can't tell you that I think that the Bears are about to put up a 40 burger, but Case, to just ask the question, you think this Bears offense wouldn't consider it kind of a disappointment to score 14 points? I mean, the defense is one thing, because if the defense allows 24 points to the Titans, that'll be its own problem, right? But if the Bears offense scored 14 points, would we really look back and say, it's just rookie stuff? I mean, I'm sure, knowing myself and the way I generally cope with things, I would find as positive a spin on it as I can just to get through with it. But I can't help looking at that and thinking that's because, like you're saying, that guy, a lot of Bears fans are. I agree. I think a lot of Bears fans are scared to get excited because a lot of them are really used to being let down. What I'm sitting here thinking, Dark Wolf, Rob Daniels, that guy, is I don't expect the Bears to be consistent on offense, but the Bears are built to where they could be explosive in intermittent chunks and still score 17, 20 points. Is that a fair number? That's below average, according to last year's points per game totals. But I'm sitting here thinking that Caleb Williams could run the kind of offense that goes 3-and-out. I mean, honestly, the preseason game against the Bengals was probably the perfect example here. But to stretch it out, or to tease it out a little bit, they're exactly the kind of offense that could go, or that could go 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 45-yard pass into 2 runs and a check down that gets you 9 yards, and then that's 3 points. And then the next drive, maybe they put something together, but they still only, I don't know. I could story tell, right? But the point is that I would not be surprised if the Bears offense is going to sputter at different times. But I don't expect them to be so consistently outmatched. And I can't help but favor the matchups. We're talking about football. And football is a matchup game. And the moment you start winning matchups is the moment that you should be able to pick up points. And Jibby, I agree with you that it's a hard way to live long term, but also this is the NFL. There is no easy way to live on offense unless you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Like, you look across the board at most offenses, most of them just don't have that many ways to hit the auto win button. But the ones that do tend to do it off of the backs of amazing players. And the Bears, I mean, hopefully they get that kind of production from Keenan and DJ. Hopefully eventually they get it from Rome. Maybe even they get it from Caleb. But it's not going to be week 1. So it's kind of this it's sort of this haze as I see it. Not to get all meta, but to the point of what New Poster's talking about, this is a team that looked very competent against the Bills starters and shot themselves in the foot a couple times on what could have been 2 touchdown drives. I think they had the opportunities, but with drops and mistakes, they ended up 2 field goals. And then the week after that, the Bengals backups hit them, or like shut them out on their first 3 drives, where they ended up with 9 plays. And like you're saying, Robert, I mean, I agree with you that, yeah, there were headset issues for sure, but they are going to happen during the season. You would hope that the Bears can be a little bit more, a little bit more resilient, but also it's the preseason. If there's a time to screw that kind of thing up and end up learning a lesson that you tighten up and go from there, it's during the preseason. And so we can go back and forth on this, can't we? That's what I think makes this week and this stream, and also technically next week's, because we will have a stream next week. That's what makes these streams so funny. We could go around the hole, or we could go around the horn over and over and over. You guys want to do like a Titans thing? We could probably do that. I think we could swing that. Like whatever look we can get at the Titans, be a little more focused, right? But so it's exactly case, right? The NFL doesn't score that much. The funny part to me, Case, is we are plucking Caleb Williams from an environment where he had to score 5 to 6 touchdowns if he wanted to win a game. And now we're putting him in an area where if he puts 17 points on the board, that is a defendable, not like in the public sphere. I'm talking that is a scoreline like Case. You know DBs, right? If you asked Jalen Johnson and Montez Sweat, hey, you think you can hold Will Levis to less than 17? They're going to laugh at you, right? That I'm talking behind closed doors. You asked them that in a presser, and they're gonna say they got a lot of talent. But the when you talk to the Bears defenders, they're going to consider 17 points to be an incredibly achievable feat. And I'm not saying that that's guaranteed one way or another. I'm saying that, Jibby, to your point, this is a very this is a real pivot moment for the Chicago Bears. You lose this game, you could still have a really fun season. You might still even make the playoffs, but it's going to look a little different, even if just a little, than if you roll up and you grind out a win against the Titans. It does not have to be pretty. You don't get an extra win for style points. But like you're saying, Jibby, let's say Caleb Williams has an interception and a fumble, and he also he throws for one touchdown, and he is able to lead the offense to one more field goal. And amidst all of that, the Bears defense collects a sack fumble that puts them in field goal range, and then pick your favorite corner. I'll say it's Kyler Gordon jumps on a Will Levis pass and takes it back to the house. And the Bears win, I don't know, what is that, 20, maybe even 23 to, I don't know, let's say they win by 3 points. It doesn't matter, right? Will that have been the best start for Caleb Williams? No, but it'll have been a rookie start, and you just got to get through them, and it'll be a win in the win column. I mean, it's just a funny place for the Bears to be. We could go around and around and around in circles, seriously. But I think it can be fun either way. I really do. But let's see, didn't the Bears D average giving up like 18 since the Sweat trade? That sounds about right. Rip, how far did you get in front of this? Really far. No, see, this was so funny. I heard somebody say, yeah, Rippin was like 3 yards ahead of the line of scrimmage. And it's like, oh no, he's like 1 yard. It was almost sick, Brett. Good try. Dude, that guy, I hear that. Where I'll tell you, that guy, I have an unusual amount of calm. I am frustrated as a content creator that week 1 hasn't happened yet, because I can only in good conscience make so many videos about the way that, like, the guessing games that we're doing about the Bears offense right now. But as far as the season goes, I got to be real with you. This may be me being 30. And so I know some of y'all aren't 30 yet. I know some of y'all are older than 30, but I am determined to enjoy the season pretty much no matter what. If the Bears go 7-10, 8-9, we'll find a way to have fun. We've had much worse seasons. Much worse. Jibby, I am. We've heard a lot. We've watched a lot of number 1 overall quarterbacks come out flat, figure it out, end up very good. We don't know what Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, the guys who I've seen Caleb most compared to. Well, thank you, Bears. Bears blast. We don't know what they looked like as rookies because we didn't see it. Both of them sat on the bench. So if Caleb ends up coming out, I mean, think about it this way, fam. Let's say, like, that guy, to use an example, say that Caleb Williams comes out and as a rookie, he looks like Kyler Murray as a rookie, right? So too much dancing around, too much out of structure, but enough within the structure, and some of the out of structure he does is crazy. Like, because that was rookie Kyler. He had moments where it was like, what did you just do? My question is, if that's where Caleb starts, again, rookie Kyler, then what happens in this game, right? And I'm right there with you, Travis. I tend to agree with you. I think that the stage is set for Caleb to have a year where his team lifts him up more than he lifts them up, and in so doing, he ends up with a bunch of sicko stats, right? And I'm with you, John. That's the other thing. You mentioned Kyler. I'm not trying to make Kyler sound disappointing. I'm more using Kyler as a benchmark because he's not a 4,000 yard or a 4,000 yard guy or something. It's more to say that if Kyler, Robert, I'll tell you that Caleb should look better than Murray eventually, but week one, it's not a race, I guess is how I see it. But that's the thing. Travis, we're on the same page. What you gotta remember, Travis, and Bears fans, no worries. I'm gonna help Travis understand. Cause Travis, I think maybe you think you know. But let me make sure you know. You're hearing this fan base process almost a decade of trauma. I mean, we have seen so many quarterbacks come and go. And the worst part is we believed in a lot of them for different reasons. Now, I would tell you I think I learned a lot. Where if I had it all to do over again and the Bears drafted Mitch again, I don't think I would be remotely as high on Mitch the second time around. I know, big words, right? And with Justin, I feel like I learned a ton. Justin hit the league at a very weird time when, if y'all remember, because if not, hey, I'll let you know, we had seen, I mean, we looked at sack rates just last week, for those of you who remember. And when we looked at sack rates in 2008, we saw a bunch of names. But in 2024, the lowest sack rates in the NFL were the best quarterbacks in the NFL, sans Lamar Jackson, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I say that because the wildest part about watching Justin was we picked up Justin at a time when we had forgotten how hard it is to make your check at the line and throw it to the guy in space within the framework of the offense and to let him do the work. Justin was phenomenal at doing all of the hard stuff. Like all of the hard stuff. And I never want to back off from that. The dude was a super athlete that could just rip the ball wherever he wanted to. But the timing of the offense, playing on schedule, and getting the ball into space was really difficult for him. And I did not realize how critical that was to being an NFL quarterback until we went through the Fields experience, and it became pretty obvious. And Caleb is kind of the best parts of all of this. Caleb's a psycho athlete that can make plays like the touchdown run that we saw, but he's also a quarterback that can rip the ball to DJ Moore on 3rd and 12. And so I say all of that because I'm with you, Case, where Travis, I'm confident. I don't know why I wouldn't be confident. The film I'm seeing from Caleb Williams, both in college and in the preseason, is extremely exciting. And the weapons that the Bears have are good enough to where I don't know why we wouldn't be positive about this. Really. But it's a Bears quarterback. He wears a Bears uniform. Let me see. Let's see. His arm talent was great, but he had no pocket awareness or processing ability. Are we talking about Fields or are we talking about Caleb? No, I get you. I mean, I would tell you that I thought against the Bengals he looked like a rookie. We went through it last week. That's my main take, right? Is I thought that there were pieces of the offense that Caleb ran better than the people who were running the offense. I thought there were parts of the offense where Caleb skipped off a read that if he'd hung on to a little longer, he would have found something. So it was kind of both and, right? Where Jeff, thanks. Because Jibby, you mentioned he wasn't playing in structure at all. He was for the first 3 drives. The offensive guys just weren't there. And granted, I mean, he played in structure and also threw inaccurately in the first series. But in the second series, he rips a slant to DJ Moore on time. It's the only pass play that got called for him. And then in the third series, he had another play or two where the ball goes right where it should. The play to Kmet, right over the ball, like that goes right where it should. Then to Everett, the ball goes right where it should. And guess what, Jibby? You don't care because it didn't pick up a first down. But that's 3 plays where pop, 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 the ball went right where it should have on time. It just wasn't for a touchdown or a first down or whatever, right? That's not me hating. That's not me trying to, oh, gotcha. It's more to say that I'm with you. There was too much backyard stuff in the fourth and the fifth drive, even though it worked. But earlier, when they were going through like within the framework of the offense, there was plenty of that there. It just didn't produce because the whole team was off. That's the thing, right? You mentioned too fast or too slow. Too fast or too slow, right, Jimmy? What does that sound like to you? That sounds like a tempo problem, but not consistently too slow, right? And not consistently too fast either. So almost like somebody who's zeroing in, somebody who's learning, somebody who's gaining experience. I mean, dude, Jimmy, I understand. I know the trauma. I know you don't want to get hurt again. I know. I know you're bought in. We've had enough conversations to where I don't know you personally, but I feel like I know where your football heart is at. And I'll tell you with a straight face that it's okay to say he's a rookie because when your receivers are going to break because you haven't played with them for a year. You don't know exactly how fast the defenders are going to be able to close on everything. You don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And sometimes that you just know your guys wrong. Playing buddy ball is not always wrong, especially when you're talking about working with a dog. But right now we're so focused on seeing Caleb look like quarterbacking perfection that I think we're picking at nits and every once in a while missing the overall picture. And that's all right. I mean, that everybody plays buddy ball, Case, right? Like everybody, catch you soon, Spectre. Love it. And everybody plays a little bit of buddy ball. Everybody does. Most of the good quarterbacks have a guy that they go to. You think Joe Burrow doesn't play buddy ball with Jamar Chase? You think Josh Allen wasn't playing buddy ball for forever with Stephon Diggs? It's okay to put the ball in the hands of a talented receiver, especially when that receiver really is worth the talent. Examples of good quarterbacking against Buffalo. Because the other thing about Caleb's touchdown run or touchdown throw, right? So here, I'll pull it up. If we're gonna talk through it, I'll talk through it, right? Let's see, translate over. That should work. Where are we? This is the flick. Yay, Rome. It's this one. So, and the frame rate on the new cut is so much better. Anyways, so we've got the play pulled up. We've seen it before. It's a rollout and a naked one. This guy's going to be unblocked. I'll never quite understand why the NFL doesn't just scoop block him or anything like that. They just don't. Watched it with enough offenses where barely matters who you are. You could be Ryan Tannehill. You could be Caleb Williams. You could be Joe Flacco. They're never gonna block anybody over there. What's up, Woo? And so then everybody's gonna get lost because nobody's really open because Caleb has to deal with the rusher in his face, right? And so Caleb is going to come on, Caleb, hit the flick. Technically, he could throw to Blasingame, but why? I don't blame Caleb for this. Not only that, but he's got to work around him anyways. When you look further into the end zone, obviously you can't just like throw there. Not only is it an unrealistic body angle, but he's just going to tip it, and then that's probably going to get picked. But the main reason you're seeing me care is because we saw this all over Caleb's college tape. I'm going to stand up. Sorry, everybody. I think it's really dorky when I do this, but Caleb has this squat you see him get into. He does it in the pocket. He does it on the run, where Caleb can just stop and then he can start. And seeing this in the NFL against a real NFL athlete is, in my opinion, pretty massive. Because while there are going to be some freaks that might be able to chase him down, this is still like much better than just a D1 athlete. Backup or not, this is a great test of can you avoid somebody? And Caleb keeps so much space while creating an opportunity that, like you're saying, Rob, there's an element of this looks more like the Pac-12 than it does the NFL. And not only that, but I love the fact that Caleb keeps this throw unusually safe. Dude, Jibby, I think it's Jibby that I'm kind of loosely talking to in this. I have seen so many Bears quarterbacks stuff the ball towards one of these players. Why? Because they look open. You'd swear they're open, and it is a consistent interception, and it drives me crazy. Like, you get that Bears throw it in the end zone. It's picked off. And you just know the dude's cooked. Like, in your heart of hearts, you're like, oh my goodness. But instead, Caleb draws so much attention with his feet that he flicks the ball, and it should have been a touchdown. The dude got roasted on Hard Knocks. I don't need to pour it onto Rome Odunze. Y'all know. But the main thing, yeah, it's fine in the red zone. You can't do it forever, Jibby. I'm right there with you. The main reason you're hearing me talk it up is because this is completely within the structure of the play. You know, when you call a boot like this, that Caleb may have to deal with a man out in space, and he does so by dusting him. I actually didn't see Justin for it. I think Justin's probably a better overall athlete, right? But Justin doesn't handle him as well. From all the tape we watched, Justin is probably going to tuck and try to run around him, right? And then you're going to get 24, and you basically need Blazing Game to turn and block this guy. And if Blazing Game blocks that guy, like if he turns around and blocks him right here, then Justin might score anyways. I mean, Justin's that guy. Justin could clear this edge, but Caleb creating the stop and start also, like, look at what it, I love this part. Look at what it does to the defense. You stop like this, and you get look at all the defenders. Watch the defenders, right? All the defenders turn, and when he stops, they stop. The only reason Rome's open is because this guy gets lost, thinking Caleb's about to scramble. When a quarterback moves, you grab people's attention. It's pretty much how Rodgers survives. Let's take a look. Jimmy, we got final rosters now. Isn't that guy he's shaking a future Uber driver? I actually don't know. So let's go to the Bengals depth chart. Our lads, they've probably had a busy day, huh? And it's looking like he may be a future Uber driver. Maybe a practice squatter. Let's see. Did he really get full cut? Oh man. Yeah, no, I agree with you on this because this is a good question. It's like, is this guy an NFL football player? Right? That's the kind of questions we need to be asking here. Let's see, we got 91. He's 51, right? Is it 51? I think it is. 51. Let's see. Bengals number 51. Thank you guys for indulging me. Let's see. Is it Marcus Bailey? Is he a Cardinal now? Let's see. Every player to wear 51? That feels awfully big. All's roster. Dude, I don't know. It being Mickey Mouse is just a funny way to put that, man. I couldn't tell you. Let's assume it was against a guy who didn't make a team. And so, in that case, like you're saying, it's it's the kind of thing that you could take it however you wanted to, truly. And I'm with you that, like, as sweet as this is, I think that this kind of throw is going to get too much play. I love that he's got the physical talent to make it, but that was just never our question, right? I will tell you that while I don't like Caleb tripping on himself, I'll always look at a play like this one and I'll see the sack avoidance and think it's a massive positive trait. Being able to get out of sacks like that is worth it, even if it means that we've got to figure out what we're going to do after the play because we're playing just a little too wild. And I would still go back and I would look at the early drives. And I would mention, let's see, Robert CRT plus F. Wait, what? What you got, Ryan? Let me see. Rob Daniel. Am I saying he couldn't do that to say Rashawn Gary? I'm saying I don't know. There's a piece of this where Control F. Well, I did. At least I tried to, but you'd have to find a Bengals 90-man roster. Which, if one of y'all wants to go look for a 90-man roster, go ahead. But I just sorted and looked for 51. But so Bears run the ball twice. Like, Jimmy, here's the big thing that I looked at, and I didn't see this. Just to be clear, when we did this review, I thought that I was I thought when I was doing the review that I was going to see things even worse than I did. Really, I thought everything was going to be way, way, way off time. But this play right here, he throws it pretty much when he should. Like, soon as Everett turns his eyes around, arm moves, flicks him the ball. That's normal. Where's Justin Blezick now, Case? Simple? Yes. Effective? Not on that play. And I'm not trying to tell you it was effective. I'm trying to tell you it was within structure. And then the next play after that, they just go snap, quick ball to Cole Kmet. Complete. Bengals starters? No, but this would work against the starters. Next play, I think they run it. They do. No kidding, right? That guy. And then on this play, Caleb takes the snap, IDs the slant, throws the slant. I'm not trying to tell you that it's all absolutely perfect, right? I'm definitely not telling you that none of this will ever happen again. It's more to say that there's 3 plays in the first 3 drives that Caleb, out of 9, of which at least 3, I think 3 were running plays. Not that it matters. So you have 3 that are herky-jerky and all over the place. I get it. That's enough cause for worry. But you have 3 where Caleb does exactly what the offense tells him to do. So I agree with you in principle that we can do better. Are you hearing me say that? Because that's important, right? It's not total cope. It's like there's a lot of improvement to be had here. And we are allowed to say that. But also, I wanted Justin to throw this his entire time in Chicago. Like, take the snap. Don't get scared of the guys that are getting kind of close to you and just flick the ball right where it's supposed to be. No big deal, right? Or the ball to Cole Kmet that we just saw. Flick the ball to where it's supposed to be. To Everett, flick the ball to where it's supposed to be. Let somebody else fail. Yeah, I'd love to see every single play be a first down. Statistically, it's not going to be. So sometimes you got to turn it over to the other generational guy that they drafted, right? You also, for what it's worth, it does help that one of my, I hate admitting this, but if I made a top 10 favorite players on the Bears right now, Torrey's absolutely in that group. And if I made a top 5 players on the Bears right now, Torrey still might be in that group. Like, I don't want to see Torrey punt ever. But when Torrey does come onto the field, I say to myself, oh yeah, here we go. Right? Torrey's one of those guys, I think, that's just like full football. If you love football, you'll love Torrey Taylor. And then I think this part is funny too, that the Bears have this offense where, is this the Rome play? Yo, Rome has a gear that I don't know if he showed at Washington. Because 45 probably got cut too. But Rome put space inside of him. Like, Rome puts some dust between him and 45. He's got them long strides. But I think this is so fun. I'm trying to use a word that isn't interesting. The part that's easy to forget about the Chicago Bears in 2024, Jibby, is at any moment they can just pull the pin on the Caleb hand grenade and just try to take all the yards at once, right? I still think, Jibby, were you here last week? Am I about to mansplain to you? One thing we did look like, or one thing we looked at that I think is very, very interesting is, and this time I'm going to use that word appropriately, watch where the ball lands and now watch Tyler Scott's path to it. I think Tyler reads this ball wrong, which is going to sound like Cope, but so the ball lands right here, right? But when I went back and looked, Tyler carves this route out really early. Like, Tyler is running straight this way, seemingly as far as what Caleb can tell when he throws this ball. Certainly, when he's right here, he's running direct up the field. When Tyler turns his shoulders, he does the same thing that normal human beings do when they turn their shoulders, and what should be a route out here becomes a route in here. But if you look at Tyler, so we're going to watch from the wide angle, and then we'll watch from the tight angle, because truly this is the story that did not get told about this throw. Whatever, nobody cares. I care, right? Watch Scott. Right here, Jibby. Notice that instead of turning this way, right, or continuing his path this way, Tyler is turning back up the field. Like, I think he was too shallow on this, because he has to come back straight up the field for the ball that I think was always there for him if he just ran it normally. Like, I think these things take time. Wouldn't surprise me if Tyler didn't think he could get the ball out there. And not only did Caleb get it out there, he got it out there off of no hop. Like, I mean, granted, look, I'm a sucker for some sick arm talent. He kind of steps into it, but he even gives it a ball pat before just launching the ball 50 yards downfield. So it's less Jibby that Scott can't play. And Eric, it's not as much, I mean, yes, there's an element of leading him. I would tell you that as opposed to leading him away from the other safety, which is part of it, I also think that you just want to throw the ball as deep down the field as you can in those moments. And if you can paint by the numbers, even better. But Jibby, what I'm more saying than anything is I think that there are a lot of miscommunications across this roster. Little moments of, bro, I'm going to get downfield. Moments of, hey, Gerald, I need you to get to the first down marker and sit there. Moments of, hey, Rome, I need you to get to the back pylon on that. Moments of, Caleb, my guy, you can't hold onto the ball like that forever. Moments of, Caleb, I appreciate that you're trying to step up in the back of the pocket, but I thought this one was really interesting. From Steven Ruiz talking about the ball that Caleb missed in the end zone, or the ball. It's a pass that Caleb missed in the end zone, where basically what? No, it was the drive before, wasn't it? It's the sack. Is it this play? No. But hey, Jimmy, look at that. Curl, ball, 7 yards. Again, who cares? That's not the play that's going to get you to Canton. We've talked about this for almost a year at this point. But it is the play that, I swear, looked a lot harder last year. And that's the thing. That guy, the point that I'm making when you say, think he hits that if it happens again, first of all, that was a 50-yard DPI. I don't care. Like, catch or not, whatever. I'm trying to tell you I think it's a good ball. And I think Tyler Scott misjudged it in the air. And yes, I'll say that now and again because I think that I'm a huge believer, for what it's worth. I went over this last week. Here to here, this is the quarterback. Here to here is the QB plus the wide receiver. And I believe that anything beyond about 20 and 25 yards, the wide receiver has way more control over quarterback accuracy than you would ever realize. That ball is thrown so early. The wide receiver's ability to get under it cleanly is most of what makes it look good. And that involves reading the football in the air. And that's not a skill that everybody has. And that's not to say that Tyler Scott sucks. It's one rep. It's more to say that it is really easy for guys to look like amazing deep ball throwers because they just flick the ball down the field and Tyreek Hill looks like a king running under it. Chances are most of us, if you could throw a football 40 yards, would also look like a god throwing to Tyreek Hill because Tyreek is unbelievable at route timing, whatever. So here's the play that I know all kinds of people are worried about. It's a fake screen where you're going to get, I think it's Scott headed up that way, I don't know, down the alley. Then you get Pettis running up the seam, and everybody wants him to hit Pettis, and he should, right? This play, Caleb sees the smoke. He hangs on Scott, is what I'm seeing. And I believe he's also watching this corner. And he just sits on it, ends up sacked. Not good. But one thing that somebody mentioned, it was Steven Ruiz, who writes for The Ringer, is that Caleb takes such a hard step forward that by the time he goes to look at the inside, he is screened basically by his own guys. Where had he been a little further back in the pocket, or had he been 3 inches taller, he might have seen Dante Pettis a little further down the field. But he didn't. So he ends up sacked. That's not good. But it's exactly the kind of thing that you could look at in film review and you could say, hey, I completely get that we're watching that corner, but if you see him there, you got to get off of that. And then you got to come up the field. And Jibby, I'm with you where, of course, I would love for Caleb to be playing perfect football right now. But I watched Justin Fields put up 1 net passing yard as a rookie in his first start. You can go quite far up. Lest we forget. Yes, I understand we're all going to say, yeah, but Allen Robinson quit. Why are we bringing that up? Justin Fields stats. This is not to dunk. This is to remind everybody what it looks like for a rookie to play like a rookie. Look, do we remember this? Like, these two don't count. But so we're talking 2 games of under. Well, I guess he got hurt on that one. So we're talking multiple games well under 200 yards. One where he threw for over 200, or where he threw for over 250, but none. Oh, I guess you're right there. Yeah, there's the Pittsburgh game too, man. We love that Pittsburgh game. Ooh, yeah. But so all this to say that I'm not expecting Caleb to do this. If that's what happens, that's what happens, and we'll all be bummed, and maybe we'll all swear off the team. But I doubt that's going to be the issue. I'm just expecting rookie problems. Why would there not be rookie problems, right? It would be very unusual if there weren't rookie problems. That's how I see it. And then I'm with you, that guy. I thought that Scott was pretty good. Amazing? But pretty good on Thursday night. And we love that. This was so funny because Velus catching the ball and just looking normal catching the ball is apparently a lost art among Khalil Herbert and others like him. And I think it is so weird that just catching the football out of the backfield has been made to look so hard sometimes. But if V12 can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, he might actually find a role, which feels a little... I kind of feel like I'm on coke saying that, but here we are. Let me see. Why did he get so much hate, that guy? I mean, admittedly, maybe I just didn't care that much about maybe I just wasn't watching the game that much. But did Jonathan Owens do something? Jonathan Owens, as I've always seen him, he's quick. He doesn't always know where he needs to be. Let me see. Yeah, that's the truth, TB. And I'll tell you, as somebody who is really pretty poor at tracking the ball, it's not easy. I guess I'm not that bad. But if you put me on an NFL football field, it would definitely not be good. That guy, I would tell you, we can watch it if you care. But I also have always known people, for what it's worth, whenever we watch deep balls, that guy, what always gets me is that we'll end up watching. Oh, wait, is that the cover 4 beater? Remind me, that guy. Was that the one where everybody was, maybe I do remember this, where everybody was right here and they're mad that Jonathan Owens stayed here and then the cover 4 beater went over the top of him and they completed it for a fairly big gain? Is that it? because of course that's like not Owens's job. this this is where football and football fandom are so funny because I've had 5 years in this. Things that aren't new to me anymore are still new to a lot of wonderful fans that are just joining for this. But you end up with a lot of this, right? Where that guy, you know what I'm talking about. This exact route is a perfect call against cover four, and this guy's got to contest it, and he's almost never going to, at least not well. And so let's see, the corner, no way that was it run outside like there to there? Because if it was, yeah, it's got to be the corner. You can't let that guy beat you. But people do that all the time. Where Deion Bush, I remember, Eddie Jackson used to take a lot of heat for balls that were not his problem, but they were somebody else's problem, and that was enough. Man, I'll tell you what, this stuff always gets me. We're like, look at Scott on this play. I'm not killing Ripien. I don't care. But most quarterbacks won't throw this. But Scott gets himself home free. Home free. Because a lot of quarterbacks, or a lot of receivers, if you're running a basic against cover four, you convert it into a corner. And Rip doesn't wait. Rip's going to go try to get that first down. But this kind of stuff that uncovers is always an opportunity that I'm very curious to see what Caleb takes as we go on. What is tripping up Scott in these situations? Is he trying multitasking, or is it just basic skill? Martin, I think that there's always going to be an element of when I am in this situation, this is what I do, right? For instance, Martin, if you were going to run a sprint, I want you to run that same sprint on a track, except flip around and look behind you. You'll be shocked at how quickly you will just drift towards the other end of the track, right? And I'm not trying to hyper defend Scott. I'm more saying that it's pretty normal. It's why on these deeper routes you generally see quarterbacks lead their guy into the middle, but against a too high safety structure, you can't do that. So you have to throw not direct up the field, but as close to it as possible so that you can keep this safety out of the play. But I look at all that kind of stuff when we see receivers and quarterbacks put the ball in one area that they're not, or that the receiver didn't expect it, and I generally just hand wave it all and I say it doesn't matter yet. When it matters, like right now during practice, this is my thesis on all this, right? I would love to see them hit it. I would love to see all of this stuff work out. Like Jibby, you mentioned how it's surprising to you that the Bears supporting cast hasn't supported Caleb better than you expected. And I look at all this and I mention, or I mutter to myself, it's the preseason. If there's a time to screw this stuff up in a brand new offense with a brand new supporting cast, it's right now. And so, yes, it all runs back to the miscommunication issues. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Martin. Where I think at the end of the day, while there are some pieces of this where it's like, well, Scott could get better at this, and others where, well, Caleb could know Scott better than that. Or maybe the play specifically calls for the ball in this situation to get put there. I also think there's a lot of that just comes from talking it out and playing in the same offense for a while. It looked clunky with Josh Allen until it didn't, and then it never has since. I guess that's not totally true, is it? They're one of the most efficient but still clunky feeling offenses in football, and have been for a hot second. I appreciate that. I don't know, Big Al, how you doing? What's up? Glad to have you along. I'm so interested to hear whether or not I've just attracted Velus defenders or whether I've made you guys into Velus defenders, because this game really was a lot of fun. Like, very proud parent kind of moment. Man, Scott, I would love to see us get up the field a little better than this. That's a lot of space. That's a lot of space to run straight into a corner. Let's see. We got some decent Velus hitting the lane that I skipped over already. You can't fake experience. Okay. Nice catch. Here, I'm looking for Velus runs. Shamelessly hunting Velus runs. Oh, is this the Scott deep ball? Show it to me. That's nice. Probably against second string corner. I'd actually love to see Scott get off the ball a little cleaner than that. But he looks free and easy running down the sidelines against the second string. Did I scout any Bates during pre-draft? Like which Bates? Brendan Bates? No. I had a very low pre-draft this last season. I watched like the top 10. Is seriously that guy? Dude, that guy. That's what's so funny about the daggum preseason, that guy, right? Because this stuff happens in the normal NFL. Like, very normal. Very normal, dude. That guy and others that are in the chat, and also the wonderful ones of you who are listening along and are not contributing. This is what I think is so messy about the preseason and football in general, right? Tyler Scott is exactly the kind of guy where on a random down against press coverage in the middle of the game, near the end of the second half, or near the end of the first half, so in like a 2-minute situation, he's totally fast enough to where if you miss your jam, which he does, he can hose you because it's the NFL. Juwan Jennings can catch for, by golly, near 100 yards in the Super Bowl, and Ray McCloud can dust a young Kyler Gordon. Do y'all remember that in Kyler's first game against San Francisco 49ers? Do we need me to remind us about that? Like, where Kyler clearly played I can jump out and get you when I want to, and Ray McCloud just said, no, you can't, and just dusted him real easy. And I'm with you, Jibby, where I think Tyler Scott has the speed to separate. I also think he's kind of small and doesn't contest balls very well because size. But it's so funny in the NFL, truly, where we will spend so much time saying that's just not going to work against blank, and then it does. But then also we do this a lot with the defensive and the offensive line. We go, man, Tyree Carter looks great against blank. Yeah, and then that guy's like Vita Vea, or in this case, it'll be Jeff Simmons. And no, he does not look great against Jeff Simmons just because he looked decent against the KC's DT4 or DT3 or something like that. The NFL is a matchup game full of matchup problems, left, right, and center. And I'm there with you, Rob, where it's it's a good rep from Scott. I'm not saying this to dunk on Scott. I'm saying this actually more to Jibby's point of I wish football worked more like it did on paper. But even you could tell me, Jibby, you could tell me right now, Caleb spends more time against Tennessee. Like you looked at your crystal ball and you saw Caleb played on schedule some, but he probably played off schedule a little too much against Tennessee. And I'd have to ask you the follow-up question. Okay, but like, did it work? Because with a guy like Caleb Williams, it might. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff where right now when Caleb wants to stay on his feet, he does more often than not. He's gotten out of way more sacks than he has not at this point. Do we know that that's repeatable? I technically know, but I would have expected him to take more sacks because if you go back and you look at Justin Fields' preseason, Justin Fields was getting sacked a lot during preseasons too. Sack rate is the big one. And right now, Caleb's sack rate looks pretty consistent. Now, the teeniest of teeny sample sizes. But how do we match up against the Titans? We'll talk more about that in a stream next week just because it's late enough that we'll stay just on topic enough. This was almost sick. Scott going up for the ball on the back shoulder. And his hands just are not elite. Would have been a sweet catch. Rippon does a good job to get the ball up and over the linebacker. But that's tough. I do wish we saw the back angle more sometimes because I saw plenty of people that were like, Scott's got to catch that. And I'm like, yeah, maybe Keenan does, right? Maybe what DJ Moore does, but a smaller receiver with smaller hands, that's a hard one. And a lot of guys aren't going to bring that down. But it's also an NFL throw. It's giving a guy a chance and a seam. Come on. Rippin', get me to Velus. I want to talk about Velus. Here we go. So this could be, let's see. No, that guy, I don't think that's bias. This could be me looking for something where I shouldn't be looking for it. I'll let you guys be the judge. I think these runs are important. For the Velus at running back experiment to work, you need to see an element of toughness. And for me, when I see cut to the outside, okay, contact at the line. Where do we finish? Right? Push forward, finish 2 yards ahead of the contact point. Is it the threes? Yes. But that's good. There's a lot of running backs out there that aren't going to finish with physicality. And if you can get your converted wide receiver to put his shoulder down and fall forward, then the sweep stuff sells itself. I don't have to sell you on a sweep, but a play like this, look at the contact point. He's not the low man. Like, Velus just actually has contact balance. Dude stands up the DB, reestablishes, and presses forward. Will we even get another angle? Oh, yeah. Like, to me, the scrappiness is actually where you need Velus to prove himself. Go get me 1 yard. Go convert something on the 4-yarders. It's a pass, I don't care. Oh my god. Yeah. Okay. How on earth? Maybe I'm a psycho. How on earth did a play like this get called an interception? Like, how on earth did a play like that? I did anybody else feel like this was just a clear bounce? I thought that was so plain. Oh yeah. Every time, Robert. If anything, I actually think it's going to be better. With these lately, I don't even know if I have time to watch the game in many cases. But when it's actually the season, I make sure to go back and watch it. Do. Give me the sweeps. Which one, Martin? So obviously this stuff is so good. Yeah, no, for sure, Robert. Yeah, I did it last year. I've done it for like 3 years now. I used to do videos. I don't have time for the videos when I'm not like poor. Maybe one day, which is not complaining. But like Velus's speed is so easy and free in open space. It's awesome. He just gets so much space. And then 3rd and 1. I actually thought this was a very important one. To me, these are really the downs, right? Where straight down the line, mano a mano, 1 yard. 1 yard. Can you get it for us? Found a seam. Got the yard. Let's see. Do we get the other angle? Even better. There are Bears running backs that I swear to you, I have seen freeze right here and get tackled. This guy just straight up lost. What does Velus do? Get through. Lower the shoulder. Linemen take you forward. Easy conversion. Does this mean Velus Jones is a star? Not yet. Are we drawing his bust out for Canton? Not yet. But for a wide receiver converted to running back, that is a running back's run. And it gets you access, I believe, to some of these toss sweeps where the rest just does itself. Tyler, stay up. I get it. I get that we're falling backwards to make the catch. That is such easy separation, though. He's fast enough. And well, that's the other thing, Martin. Almost all wide receivers don't do any dirty work, like none. So it didn't matter that Velus is a really good runner, especially because you got to remember that to this point, can anybody guess the play that I'm talking about? There is a play on Velus's record that showed us that we always knew we could do this. Like truly, this was not a question. This was a matter of like, are we going to go through the trouble of teaching him running back as opposed to can he run with ball in his hands? The problem is that the best play of Velus's career is not taken very seriously because it's in a game that even Bears fans didn't watch because there was a game that was actively more important happening at the exact same time. Like, it's to the point where I barely remember the play. I really only focused on the play because I heard about it later because I was also watching Houston play Indianapolis with the number 1 overall pick on the line. And then Velus squeezes through an alley and runs for a 44-yard touchdown. Runs for a 44-yard touchdown. Velus Jones. Like, I don't want to make this easy and sound like, oh, he's always done this. But he kind of always has. Maybe, Rob. It might have been a touch pass or something similar, but he just squeezes through 2 defenders and takes it to the house. And like, look, here's Tyler Scott, known fast man, right? I would tell you that I think Tyler, who's quick, doesn't look near as fast with the ball in his hand as Velus does. And Velus also kind of runs like he's a tank, which I'm always a fan of the guys who run with a lot of physicality, especially when they run with all kinds of speed to go with it. But this is just, I'm probably talking, if I can be honest with you, like, for those who are listening in, yes, I get that I'm coming from a biased perspective, I guess, because I like Velus Jones and have for a hot minute. But this is probably closer to what it sounds like when the coaches are talking about why they keep keeping Velus Jones than you'd realize. I mean, as silly as it is when we talk about as silly as it is talking through everything, the Velus, or like, why do people keep keeping Velus Jones? It's because of the amount of damage you can envision him doing as a runner and how hard it is to find guys with this kind of burst and this kind of contact balance and this kind of ability to create explosive plays, with the problem being that Velus has always been so involved in such catastrophic plays that putting him out there is like a massive time bomb. Sometimes it feels like. Is that Velus trying to block? Look at that. Seriously, TB, I'm kind of surprised at how little. I expected Scott to run more like a June bug. You know? Does that metaphor work? One of those guys you see that catches the ball and they run kind of like Tariq Cohen, but not as hardcore. Like the human joystick kind of thing. But that's what's so funny, Case. I'm a huge believer that running backs age in carries, not age. So while I agree with you in principle on the 27 thing, most 27-year-old running backs have taken 3,000 carries. Oh, practice, Jibby. Like, why don't we think Velus can block? Just practice. That would be my take. Would have been a touchdown to Velus, but Rob, don't you worry. We get some sicko ones. Hand off. What do we get? The lane. That's the lane. We just lose our block. I wanted to see this all night. Like Velus on the screen. I was like, okay, what do we got? We got space, baby. We got space. What do we do? I didn't realize. Okay, live, I didn't realize we got a couple setup steps. This is total returner stuff, right? Like turn, draw an angle out. 63 doesn't block anybody. What a rate. I mean, it must be so hard for linemen to block because I've watched at least 300 screens in my time, and I swear guys do this all the time. But like, who's 63 looking at? What are we? Who are we blocking? Who are we blocking? What are we trying to do? Pick him up and force the defensive end to make a play. I mean, I actually think Velus is staring there waiting for it. Like, I think Velus is sitting there thinking, come on, get me a tunnel, get me a tunnel, get me a tunnel. All right, whatever. That's funny. I mean, I swear it must be so hard because I see so many linemen block nobody. But you would swear, right? Look at this. We can see his eyes. You'd swear he's looking at him. No. Missed him. Ah, rats. And then Velus probably could do a much better job. Like, just watching his body language. Does that look like a man that's blocking? No. But we flip really fast. He looks like a wide receiver that's playing running back in plenty of cases, but I also don't think that's always a problem. Okay, so another 3rd and 1. I think we're going to run it again. Can you get us the yard, Velus? Oh, it's Rip. Or no, it's Austin Reed. I wonder if this is actual zone read. It must be. Like, based on the way they're running it over here, I think it is. And I think that's really funny, too, because 93 looks like he's going to kill Velus Jones. Yeah, I think so. One of my favorite things, Rob, because I appreciate it, and I think you're right. I do think it's really funny. I get very animated. Like, you'll learn a lot on this channel, I hope. But the funniest part to me, Rob Daniel, is that you watch the tape and you would swear you already know what happened. And then you watch the tape again and you find out that you actually missed a very critical thing that was on the screen at the time. You just didn't slow the tape down enough to where you noticed anything. And on those plays, you forget how quickly things can change if everybody just does their dadgum job. So the drive's starting to probably wear on people. There we go, Tyler. I mean, this is easy, right? I would love to hypercredit Tyler for it, but like a dig against cover 3, when they give you that much underneath room, that's easy for anybody. We love that Scott's doing it. Why not, right? But mostly I love that Waldron is calling drop back play action with the right route against the right look, because I don't want to make it as simple as that's going to be there every time. But yo, watch 55. Like, 55 is just bit on this run action. He's gone. Easy lane. No, I don't think he did. Derek, there's a lot of things you can say about Velus Jones, because I don't know if he's particularly smart. All I've ever seen when I watch Velus play receiver is a guy that cannot get lined up to save his life, but Velus does seem to work hard. So, Zariah, I will tell you, you say, what are my expectations for Scott going forward? Can I be very real? Like, I'll tell you exactly what I'm thinking. I think Tyler Scott is going to be the kind of guy where rising tides are going to lift all boats or they're not. I think that over the next 4 years of Scott's career, he's going to have at least one season where he doesn't catch more than 150 yards. If I'm wrong, I'll own that. But I also think that if Caleb is that dude, Zariah, which, fingers crossed, but also knock on wood, that Scott could easily be the guy where, due to wide receiver injuries, et cetera, simply being in the right team at the right time could mean that he could have a 450-yard season. Same guy, right? Where I think Scott is quick enough to get into the right space on time. I also think that he's small enough and has shown so little as a yards after catch guy that I don't expect him to do more than get you what the structure of the offense gets you. It's 10. Scott Travis is number 10 right here. Wide receiver 4-5 is exactly what I'm talking about. Where the TV, I hear you, but also you got to remember that Scott is a 4th rounder, right? He's a 4th rounder on a cheap contract. So I look at Scott and think he'll be here. Even if he's the wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, he'll probably be here because I don't think he sucks that bad. You can have worse. I'm right there with you, Travis. There are worse route runners than Tyler Scott, and a decent route runner is always worth it. But that's the thing, Zariah. Another thing that I have believed for a minute is, so if a guy is projected round 2 to 3 and then he ends up drafted round 4, you need to immediately reevaluate his profile with the round 4 and just forget that ever happened, right? There are a lot less Austin Bookers than there are, oh my gosh, somebody help me with the guy's name. Northwestern edge rusher, made a video on him just last year or something. Yeah, the one who people thought he was going to be a first rounder for a hot minute, and then he ends up drafted in the 5th, right? There are all kinds of guys like this. What I've seen, Zariah, is the DT. The basic principle I'm getting at is that there are a lot less draft steals than you would ever think there are. Yes, Adetomiwa Adebaware. It's more me saying that, Zariah, you go oof, and I go, a wide receiver 4 is what I would expect from a round 4 guy. I'm happy he's doing anything, right? There are a lot more Riley Ridleys than we would ever realize. Right? 4th round wide receivers are pretty bad. So if he can do anything, yeah, all right. And somebody asked earlier, do I think Velus could be the kick returner? If Velus could track the ball in the air, we would probably not have to be doing this running back thing. But here we are, because the only safe way to get the ball in Velus's hands is to hand it to him. I mean, it's ridiculous how bad he is at tracking the ball in the air and using his daggum hands. The only catch I have considered Velus making, it is a ball thrown straight at him, eye line, and then he looks normal. You can tell. It's so funny, right? You can feel the amount of time Velus Jones has spent on the jugs machine. That just doesn't help you at balls over your shoulder. And so it's the Chargers drop really was so frustrating. I mean, and it typified kind of everything. And so Amon-Ra is an outlier. I'm right there with you, Zariah, where if he was a wide receiver 3, I would consider that really good. Speaking of the Titans, one other major question mark, I think. I like Tyler Boyd. I think Tyler Boyd can play, right? Also, wide receiver 3 on the Bengals, a very pass-happy offense, is very different than wide receiver 3 with Will Levis, I assume. So what is Boyd going to represent? What's he going to do, right? I don't know. I'm really curious to see how this Titans thing works, because I would imagine they want to use Ridley and Hopkins as much as they can. I mean, that's kind of their thing. So how often is Boyd going to get the ball? Is he going to get phased out? I couldn't tell you, but I've been waiting for this play all dadgum night. Tell me this isn't sick. Yeah, the Titans have Boyd too. When we talk about speed making a difference, you just don't see a massive, did you say a massive 500-yard season? Man, if Boyd catches 500 yards, what's Will Levis throwing for? Like a total of 3,800? That'd be pretty good. But so Velus gets up the field, and that part's fine. A lot of running backs get here, right? How many running backs have you seen? I'm being honest. Really ask yourself this. How many running backs have you seen have the guts to cut it back the other way, right? It's the 3s. I know. But almost every running back I've ever watched just takes this thing up the sidelines and lets the safety usher him out. I love the punt returner vibes that Velus Jones feels, and just works back into the middle of the field, IDs his next opponent, cuts across his face too, and just dusts everybody. I mean, you can almost feel the peace sign too, like the Tyreek Hill thing. That's the bit here. Velus has enough one cut runner and little changes of direction where he can just freeze 39. I actually love the little freeze right there. Get across his face. See you later. We don't know that there's anything real here, but it's pretty. I'm pretty excited. Like that's all it is, Travis. All you're looking at is one of the more maligned players on the Bears, and he's got some pop. I think as a changeup scat back, he could be really dangerous. But speed kills. It's professional football. When you can run like Tony Pollard, you'll get a okay, that's pretty sweet too. I'll take any time when a cut like this gets 49. I mean, all right. Could 46 play the gap better? Probably, right? But don't you love freeze frames like that? I do. These like that's the basketball broken ankles, right? That's the whole crowd goes, "Wow!" when you see somebody bent over on their knees, like on the court, where little cuts and little freeze frames like that, where you break or you just you just double somebody over, are usually the sign. Yeah, I definitely think you overplayed it a little, Travis, but you always have to set them up at least some. Riding the backs of the what? Yeah, riding the backs of the OL. I'm there too, Sir Lord, because all I'm saying. So you got to remember, Travis. We're talking about a converted wide receiver. I have seen 1,000 wide receivers get jet sweeps, and none of them cut it back up the field. Not that it's always the best position or something, but Velus's willingness to go get the hard yards makes me wonder whether it's let's see, do I think the receiver or punt returner experiment with Velus was worse? That guy, I would tell you that the Bears never had a healthy passing offense during Velus's time here. Sorry, it's the truth. So as far as wide receiver goes, I don't know because Velus never got any chances. Not that I care. I'm not pining for him to get chances. Um, but I'm also going to tell you that I think the punt returner thing was way worse because that's what he was drafted to do. And he muffed so many punts that he took the Bears from the 4th overall pick to the 1st overall pick by himself. Does that mean Velus Jones is the one to potentially thank? That Velus Jones was actually the best player for the Bears? Does that mean that Ryan Poles invested a 3rd round pick in getting Caleb? You tell me. I'm kidding. But there's something to be said for a player who was such a colossal failure. I mean, I would tell you something nicer if it was there. But that's what I'm getting at, Jimmy. As just a punt returner and a kick returner, Velus Jones probably added 2.5 losses to the Bears' schedule in 2022, and that is unbelievable. That nobody who touched the ball that infrequently should be that bad. But there we were. I mean, the Commander's muff was insane. Yeah, he's on the 53, Travis. I mean, it was unbelievable how many games the Giants game was. Yeah, the Giants and the Commanders was just like unreal. Martin, what do I need? What did I do? Why is it bad? I'm just using something. Let me see. Have I scouted Levis at all? Do I have my takes on what his likely outcome is? I think it'll be decent, not good, not bad. So, oh yeah, I just did it really fast, Martin, but I appreciate it. Let me see. So, Zariah, what I've seen with Levis is I think Levis grips and rips the ball really well. I think that he is completely comfortable with just throwing it where he needs to. I think he's got quality arm strength. I think he's solid, accurate. Solid from an accuracy perspective. I think that he plays the game at like NFL play speed and the arm to thread things into tough windows. And I also tend to believe that that's part of what gets him into trouble sometimes, because his willingness to just throw the thing can mean that he tests windows that are too tight and creates problems. Where I really think things where I really think things get wild, right? When we talk about the Bears. So that guy said something earlier that I want to work back to. That guy said, I don't know if I'm being a homer. I'm going to quote that guy. He said, I don't know if I'm being a homer, but I really like the Bears secondary against the Titans receivers. And that's the thing that I'm looking at, right? TB, I think he could. It's all a matter of whether he gets shell shocked, to be honest. But the main thing that I'm thinking about that never gets talked about enough. All right, so did we all watch last year's playoffs? I would hope so, right? Last year's playoffs saw a game that is really important, I think, to describing the modern state of football. And that is the Kansas City game versus Baltimore, in which the Kansas City defensive backs put Baltimore's receivers in a blender, strapped them up, load them in the back seat, and said, we're going to go to the grocery store, right? And when they did, it threw Lamar's timing off, especially for the first quarter and a half, and they never established a rhythm after that. And when I'm thinking about this game against the Titans, I would tell you that outside of quarterback, because Caleb, rookie quarterback, blah, 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 blah. I would tell you the second most important position matchup for the Bears. It's not on the defensive line. It's not on the offensive line. Offensive line versus Simmons is important, but the Bears defensive line versus creating pressure against Will Levis, important. But the Bears defensive backs against the Titans receivers has the opportunity to annihilate the Titans offense before it ever gets started. Because I'll tell you what, if I was Will Levis, second year corner, or second year quarterback, and I had all these new pieces that I'd gone through training camp with, and I've worked to develop rapport and develop chemistry, etc., etc., etc. And in the first game I play, suddenly those dudes are strapped up, and I'm getting pushed to my third and fourth read. If the Bears can sustain that, you're gonna see a lot of checkdowns in the middle and the end of the game. And I wonder if the Bears could just use that fuel to eat. We'll see. I mean, well, and I get what you mean, Rob, that the Titans are hard to game plan for. I agree with you. But also, if Tyreek Stevenson and Jalen Johnson bring their A game, then at that point, you're talking about Tyler Boyd trying to get open beyond, or trying to get open amidst Kyler Gordon and TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. And that's not to say it's impossible. It's to say that it's really difficult. And if Levis misses anybody, you're looking at a potential pick six. And I know that's wild language. Everybody always wants to talk about the magical, mystical pick six. And for most teams, it doesn't happen. But the Bears' makeup is such where they could be really frustrating. And if they are as frustrating as I think these DBs might be, then you're going to get a couple errant passes thrown in directions they shouldn't have been thrown. And I think Levis is exactly the type to do that. This is not the same scouting report that you're going to hear against CJ Stroud and Matt Stafford, but Anthony Richardson and those wide receivers, and also Will Levis, yeah, it's absolutely on the table, because there are going to be plays where we'll do Darrell Taylor here in a little bit. And I'm with you, Travis, where you should just check it down to Pollard. That's where the Bears, I imagine, like that guy mentions that you hope that that Flus lets the corners be physical at the line. I cannot tell you that I know anything, because I darn sure don't. Oh, what do we get here? Nobody cares. But you know what I see, right? I'm just laughing because John Jackson gets stripped, and it could score, but for the fact that Velus is on it. Velus plays it like a kick return. gets through a blocker and makes a tackle. I think that's funny. Like, I always think I'll tell you what makes me cackle and where you hear me laugh is when I'm overstating a point and just talking about somebody, and then they do like a verified little thing, TM. Gordon is Kyler Gordon. He's Bears nickel. Does Velus have other big runs? I think he does, right? Touchdown's the biggest one. Okay, Austin. That was a whip. What do we go? Backside. Just spin it. Kyler Gordon. Or Robert. Not that it really matters. Oh, we go sweep again. Solid blocking. Stay in bounds. Sure. They're playing physical at the line Saturday. What I think they're doing, that guy, yeah, you heard me trail off, didn't you? What I think they're doing is that they're going to. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm about this. We get an explosive run, and what do we follow it up with? An explosive run. Straight down the pipe. That is so hard. No, nothing about seeing these lanes is easy. I love that cut. What? How many yards does this pick up? So Velus is working down the field, and I'm going to say tackled down at probably right here, right? Mm-hmm. It is TB. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like he uses his blockers like a returner. Cuts up, cuts back. Jeepers, that picked up 15 yards. Like that series of cuts is a whole first down and a half. So Velus runs for 100 yards and had 30 more. Not 30. And I think one of the funnest parts, Chicago Fanatic, you mentioned if we can fabricate open lanes like that, this is to me what is fun about these sweeps. If you've got a guy that can read them, is they are kind of just melees of bodies. Like, I don't want to make sweeps sound as if nobody's blocking hard, but it's more that you get so much left to right movement from the defenders that it's a lot harder to scrape things out. And yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Zariah, where even if Velus ends up a really fun gadget weapon, he's still not quote unquote worth a third round pick, and you're not going to hear me pretend that he is. But I also am really soft on him because I'll take anybody that can go get you a first down. There are so many third round picks that turn out like Zach Pickens. It's not me hating on Pickens in particular. Another option would be like the Jaden Tolbert types for the Cowboys, but you end up with all kinds of that. Like, just do something positive, be anything positive. I trailed off again, that guy. What I was going to say is, I think Flus will probably blitz more than you'd think. I can't say for sure because I don't know for sure. But my guess would be that Flus is going to go from, I'll catch you soon, Martin. My guess, that guy, is that Flus is going to go from being like a 22% blitz team to like a 33% blitz team, where it's still not most plays, but it's more than usual, so that you have to account for it. And I think he wants to stack guys at the line and drop most of them off. And then Kyler Gordon is a particularly dangerous blitzer. I know he already kind of proved it in the preseason. Travis, he nearly took a guy's head off. But I also think that if you can, I think Levis is a second-year quarterback, and that's exactly the kind of guy that you're trying to just blitz like crazy. MFC is middle field closed, and the Bears have been a largely middle field closed team. So that's cover three, and cover. That's cover three, and it's cover one most of the time. But so, at least what I'm envisioning when I think about the way that they're going to attack Will Levis, this is totally again Zariah and also that guy. Me just guessing. guessing with a capital G. I don't know because we haven't seen the team this year. I hate this part of predictions because I'm going to be real with you guys. When I make a prediction, I like being right. For those who on this channel have checked, I'm not going to look on my Green Bay Packer, like Jordan Love is set up to fail video. The sad part is that I was dead on for like 9 weeks. That's part of what, in my opinion, makes Matt LaFleur's resurrection of that entire passing offense with a smattering of rookies so amazing. Like, Matt LaFleur coached, I think he could have been coach of the year. Maybe should have been. I mean, all respect to D'Amico Ryans. All respect in the world to D'Amico Ryans. But I thought what Matt LaFleur did last year in Green Bay was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And part of all that research was nailing down how rare it would have been for anybody in that setting to be successful, and they just figured it out. I mean, they got everybody open. They got Jordan playing confident. They almost made a Super Bowl. I mean, it was unbelievable. But we do coach of the year based on who should have won enough wins. Like, Stefanski won? It wasn't D'Amico? Okay. It's a backup quarterback thing then. Was it? Was it? Really? It was Stefanski. I mean, I respect that. I do. I have a whole thing. Look, I'm interested to hear what you guys think. I think the Coach of the Year award is broken. I think that Coach of the Year award ends up becoming who had the hardest job, and never ever do we celebrate how hard it is to be the dominant team that people thought you should be. I thought what Sean McVay did was incredible. Incredible. I thought what Matt LaFleur did was incredible. I thought what Kyle Shanahan did with a year of capital D dominance the entire season with a 7th rounder at quarterback was unbelievable. I mean, they were so good, and they were never even up for consideration. Because at the end of the day, all you end up with is who did the media think was going to be bad? The Texans, the Browns. Who ended up good? The Texans, the Browns. And it's like, I'm not trying to take away from Kevin Stefanski or D'Amico. I think both of them did a very good job. But what LaFleur did with that Packers team was messianic. I mean, I'm not going to break that word out often, but he resuscitated and revived a team that was dying very actively and saved them from a really nasty fate. Because had they not done what they did, people are probably way more panicky in Green Bay in general, because they had already lost that 1st-round pick from Aaron Rodgers because he went down immediately. So now it was just a 2nd-round pick, and they didn't have a lot going for them. But he just did an amazing job. And then what they were projected to be average, but you got to remember, Zariah, they lost their quarterback, who was bad. And then they got Joe Flacco, who was bad, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Where the media then gets all the feels bads instead of remembering that Stefanski is rocking with one of the best defenses in ball, right? Then you look at, in my opinion, the Rams. The Rams were all massively new, right? All of those players were rookies, and they churn out what might have been they churn out what could have, would have been one of the best rookie wide receivers. No, it was the best rookie wide receiver ever, right? Like the best rookie wide receiver season, at least. And they've got Stafford spitting fire, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, right, Derek, exactly. Let me see. All right, we are watching number 52, by the way. We'll just let this thing go. One thing I'm very curious about is how often does Taylor play in this Seahawks offense? And will we like him more than Seattle fans will? Because the Bears are getting Taylor for a 6th round pick. The Seahawks drafted Taylor for a 2nd round pick. And when the guy's a second round pick, producing like a designated pass rusher, well, you're just not going to be near as big a fan, are you? Never. Is this Dobbs? It is Dobbs. You could tell because of the garbage ball placement. Sorry. Come on, our guy. Come on, guy. I'm in Central Time, so it's like 11:30. I'm just hopped up on ball. I'm supposed to get off, and then I gotta edit the podcast, and I gotta put it on DBB. It'd be a whole affair. But I mean, TB17, the dude is the ultimate in dumb penalties, right? Like, love him a lot. But the, I mean, is there anything more football guy? Is it midnight? I'm just lost in balls, Chicago. Uh, lost in ball. Lost in ball. I love the play with him jumping off the sideline. I think it's one of the funniest plays. And then have we seen the play where he lights up Goff? Does everybody know what I'm talking about? If not, I'll go find it. It's one of my favorite plays from last year's season. Partially because Schadenfreude, and also partially because I've always wondered why that doesn't happen more. If we haven't seen it, I will go find it. But it's really one of the best. Yeah, there we go. See, I think this is so funny, right? Jibby, I know you don't care. I know you're not going to take the Josh Dobbs Cardinals as reason for anything ever. But like, dude, even in the NFL, even in a real game, this is week 7, right? You should be feeling pretty good, pretty tight, right? You should act like a normal football team. We can't make a basic completion. Our receiver is leaping in the air like he's a JV high school player that can't catch the football. Our quarterback isn't delivering anything, and we get eaten alive despite all kinds of space to do literally anything else. That's Rondale Moore. He's one of the best players I've ever watched play in college. I mean, his Purdue tape was just unreal. But it's more to say that catch you soon, go Hawks. Jibby, I think it is easy to get so locked in on the Bears that you go, good offense looks like being good the whole time. And I'm like, a lot of NFL offenses are really almost hopelessly bad, left, right, and center. I mean, here, all we're trying to do is hit a naked boot, and we leave the ball so dangerously over the top of the linebacker. Is it pressure? Yeah, definitely. For sure. But also, this is life in the NFL. That's a super dangerous throw. Not cope. More like you start watching more and more football, you start seeing more and more bad offense. Mostly because it's good defense. No, I know. It's a bad offense, Jimmy. But it's more saying, like, if you want, we could turn on a lot of other offenses where you just every team goes 3-and-out. There's a balance. Now, at the end of the day, I mean, Jibby, can I be real with you? I'm a big old fan of one metric. I I feel like there's a cycle, right? You go points down to yards, down to like I don't know, pick something. But I'll go with like pass yards maybe down to EPA back up to points, and that's where I am. Like, you start as a kid and you're like, yeah, but how many points did they score? Then you get really deep into football and you go, yeah, but how many points did they score? Do I care about the EPA? Of course I do. Do I care about their total yardage? Yes. Do I care about their turnover differential? Definitely. Do I care about how many penalties they took? Yes. Do I care about their run pass balance? A little less than I used to, truly. But what do I really care about? Points on the board. And so if Jim, if we're having this conversation and Caleb threw for 400 yards and they scored 13 points somehow, you're going to be telling me I'm less upset with it than I thought because they scored 13 points. And I'll tell you, well, I'm definitely excited they threw for 13 or for 400 yards, but how did they only score 13 points? This is ridiculous. Much easier. And Josh, are we going to complete anything, my guy? Austin, have you liked it? I saw that the podcast started, but I haven't had time to check it out. And I mean, Cole is like literally with the team. And so I'm just not expecting this amazingly insightful thing. Oh, yeah, we're stood up. Here we go. First play. 52. Mac number, right? We are stood straight up against the double team. Hey. There we go. I'll tell you, maybe it's just because I'm biased towards myself or something. I mean, it's always possible. But as much as I think player pods are cool, objectively they are cool. I would also tell you that I think that it's hard to get legitimate insight from players because none of these players are looking to get punched in the mouth. None of these players have the players just don't have they're not put in position to be objective. Like I could say whatever I wanted to. A lot of players probably feel like they are objective. I mean, you're just in it. You're working day in and day out. Why would you have Chris Olave's mindset of we're gonna suck, right? But I don't know. I think that a lot of the guys that do this, like I don't know, even Robert Mays, Nate Tice, anybody, not doesn't have to be me. The best thing that you get is that we aren't there. We are talking from the outside. We don't know anything. Sometimes the knowing, I think, makes it worse, in my opinion. Just because when you know, you're way more given to being lenient. But then when you're a little distant, you go, yeah, but it didn't work. I don't know. Here we get a big swat. That's, I mean, vicious. Okay, here's the bear. I'm I'm laughing because it's rare. I think you see a fat volleyball spike like this. I mean, this almost looks like it's a textbook. This looks like it's so on purpose. You wonder how he got it so cleanly. Bang. See ya. Boom. I mean, let's see. Hang on. If this was a volleyball net, I think it would depend on where Dobbs threw this as to whether or not it would be in or out. But we're going to try and see. This is probably my most. Let's see. Okay, we get the rejection. And I think in almost any case, that's out. Like, unless we're talking about a hitter hitting from like way over here, hit down, chances are that thing is hit and out, and that's going to be a point uh against Taylor here. But in football, it's an incomplete pass. Exactly, Case. Goofing around on goofy film is the goal. You get serious for a lot of it, and then for others, dude, I'm telling you, man, this is such a hard league. Look at this. 3rd and 14. Josh Dobbs is going to sit back and he's just going to rip this. Like this is such a good rep to see because Dobbs is throwing this on time. He has to. He's even throwing it just under pressure. Has to throw it here. Has to throw it. DB falls off. It should be a pick. The wide receiver does a great job to get in front of this ball. He has to because he's protecting his quarterback. But as much as we in chairs like mine and yours like to say, oh, quarterback's just got to throw the ball. Yo, you put that ball up one time in the wrong spot, and that is a disaster, dude. You pick that pass off right there. You give your offense the ball on the 33. Like, you're feeling great. God forbid you return it at all. It's a very good rep of reminding you just how badly things can go in. I mean, what do we think this is? Because it's funny, 21 gives you a vibe on this. Like this could be like some kind of Tampa, but I think it's just covered. 21 may just be playing a match. It's not a match though. It's just like 4 with an extra dude. It looks like for Taylor, Eric. We're watching the edge, so technically you want to be watching him, but he doesn't do anything on this play. But this may just be cover 6. Like looking at it, 22 looks like he's playing 2, and then he converts. It's not like it really matters. But that nickel corner puts himself in a dangerous spot. Here's the angle you care about, Eric. This is 52. He goes for the bull rush and gets nothing. The player I'm seeing is not particularly strong. Dude, Travis, that's the part that I think is funniest about watching football film, is you watch enough of it and you go, it could be match quarters, it could be 6, it could be 2 with a lock going this way, and then 4 on the, it could be split field with 2 lock here that just plays out this way. It's not that it doesn't matter, it's just that it doesn't matter. Does that make sense? Weak side eyeing number 3. Yeah. Could have easily been like a poach or something like it. There's an okay edge set. There we go. A little something. Okay, 2nd and 9. Seems like he's athletic, but at least early, he's not getting much. And I will warn you, I picked this game. I picked this game on purpose because he's productive. So this is supposed to be our look at him being good. Oh, nice pop. Travis, I love it. Seriously, right, Case? It is so much fun watching regular season tape. By golly, I'm just sucked in. I'm like, okay, but what are the Cardinals doing? Look at this. They're running crunch. Are you kidding me? Have you guys seen this play? This play is kooky. It's like super trap. Everybody on this side is going to step that way, and everybody else just goes the other way. I've seen it called crunch, but it's basically go bananas. It does not always work, but in this case, it generates a decent hole. I just think watching it from the end zone camera, it always, if I was a defensive lineman, I'd be like, well, what do I do? Good block by the tight end. Is that McBride putting that down? Seriously, Case, am I nuts? Like instead of trap one gap, yeah, wham. I've heard it called wham too. Travis, can you guess why it's called crunch? McBride can play. That is pretty. We're not here to watch the guy who's not on the field, but man, oh, that is some gorgeous power blocking. Everybody gets right where they need to. Gosh, NFL football rules. Getting away from preseason, seeing actual blocking concepts. Oh my goodness. Like, so silly, but it's not silly. It's just football. Like, two tight ends right here, one sit back behind him. Like, that's pretty. I can't wait for more football, y'all. Also, yo, next week, Chiefs, but Ravens? Yes? Like that's sick. Let's see. Do I think Booker will end up making a difference? Like 2023 Dexter, better, worse? Dude, Zoe, I don't know. I wish I did. But when it comes to projecting rookies, I never know, especially because right now, um, let's see, Packer Eagles. Are they playing immediately? Yo, I'm really down on the Eagles. I would love to be more down on the Eagles. And I'm also disturbingly high on the Packers. I think the Packers are a really dangerous group. I know we don't want them to be. I know everybody wants to look at every problem on the Packers roster. And I look back at you with sad, forlorn eyes and say they were all worse last year. To a man, all of the Packers, except maybe Kenny Clark, who's on the other side of the aging curve, all of them were worse or hurt last year. This year, that's it. That team sucks. Like, I mean, truly, Dark Wolf. I look at it and I'm like, they got a great coach. Now they've got an offensive system that they know works. Um, that is not a team I want to face. Which, to be honest with you, is exactly why, Zoe, as a Bears fan, I'm so stoked the Bears don't get the Packers early. I mean, what a gift. Not only should, more than likely, the Packers, as well as everybody else, end up with a couple of injuries, but the Bears should be playing some of their best football around around the midpoint of the season. I bet you it takes them 7 to 8 weeks before they really get cooking. Hey, here we go. Taylor's back in the game. There he is. Let's see what happens next. But also, the Packers get the chance. Oh, thank you, Taylor. Um, the Packers get the Bears get the chance to fully spin up before they go for it. I also think the Lions are really thin. I'm a massive Lions hater this year. I think the Lions have a lot of good pieces, but I think they are so thin top to bottom. The Lions barely have a good or yeah, it is, isn't it? I love the way everybody gets upfield on this reverse. Nobody's home. But so let's see. I hate there are several weeks of Monday Night Football. Uh, so people like the doubleheader, and honestly, I think it's Monday Night Football's way of trying to. Oh, oh, we got some pressure and a pick. Did we do anything? Not really. We just bursted at the quarterback. Like we all love getting credit for doing nothing. But this is the group project guy that got asked to just like make the word doc. Jeez, he got lit up. Dude, Case, I've never seen an NFL CB that doesn't think they're about to score their first NFL touchdown. Truly. Outside of the end of the game, I've never seen a CB that's down to just take a knee in the end zone. They all look at it and they think, I'm going to run it back. When you think, Travis, when you think split zone, because I hear that a lot, are you thinking, when you think split zone, do you mean the fact that somebody comes back across from it? Like that it's zone this way and then the split across? Or is split zone a reference to the fact that so many of the linemen will get up the field on the zone run play? But yeah, I think the reversing action was sweet to set up the zone blockers on that. The Cardinals had no talent, but they had a lot of creativity. I actually love their staff. Uh, that may make me a massive cornball, but I really. Oh, did they call like a penalty? No, 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 no. I love the Cardinals staff. I think that the stuff that they cooked up on defense and offense was just a lot of fun. Okay, Taylor, I'm trying to watch your highlight reel, my guy. This is tough. Like, we get Molly whopped. That is rough. Oh man. Feel like we gotta have more athleticism to squeeze off the surf. We bothered surfing it for crying out loud. Oof. I mean, kudos to Dobbs for just soaking the hit. Well, that guy, we knew he was a cheaper Yannick. I think so. Look, can I be real with you guys? I'm just old enough in this business to not have any misgivings about what you're getting when you got a 6.5 sack guy that only cost you a 6th round pick. I mean, 6.5 sacks and he's good at literally anything else. That's weird. 6.5 sacks and all he does is go get you some juiced up sacks. Yeah, all right, fine. That's my 2 cents. You do not have to agree with me, but generally, I don't know if anybody really steals anything anymore. When will we start rushing the quarterback? Yeah, so I'm I'm asking the same question. Probably when the score gets a little further away. Yeah, so do I. That guy, you and I may be waiting for a hot minute. One question that I have. Okay, so if you will bear with me, so if you will bear with me sounding like a massive homer for a hot minute, I do want to ask you something legit, right? No, Eric, I think he's going to be the first off the bench. Uh, like I think he's going to play almost exactly the same role he's playing for Seattle here. Um, I'm curious as to whether Poles is wondering what the Bears are going to do with a lot of their top picks coming up. And by that I mean, okay, so think about it this way. Okay. Okay. Bears have a 53-man roster. I would go through and count, but I'm not there right now. So, 2025. They have a first, they have a second, they have a second, they have a third. As of now, I believe this is the case. They have a smattering of other picks. If Ian Cunningham gets hired, they're gonna have a second, third. Okay, so that's five. That's 5 day 1, 2 picks. I am not telling you anything's happening because if it is, I don't know. But I do wonder if Poles is at least begging the question on how he's going to fit everybody on the team going forward. Because if you extend Tevin Jenkins and you cut Nate Davis, but you want to keep Colton Shelton or Coleman Shelton, like let's say you give Coleman Shelton a Billings like extension, something cheap, keeps him in town for a hot minute, and it's like 2 years, okay? And then you extend Tevin Jenkins, which you do not have to do, but at least right now, Tevin hasn't gotten hurt yet. We're trending in that direction. There is a point, isn't there, where you start to say, do we have too many picks? And I am not trying to tell you that you have to laugh at me because I'm being real out there with this. All right. I'm more saying that with where the Bears are at and how the general development curve for most rookies works, I wonder whether they're basically what I'm trying to say. I'm up late, Paul, but I love you and thank you for tuning in. Chicago, to use the Zoe kind of mentioned this, but like I'm not really trying to build the case for trading for Micah Parsons because I don't think the Cowboys would do it under any circumstance. But this is where when you hear me talk about basically boxing one of these in and just assuming it got sold, it's partially because I am sitting here looking at draft classes on draft classes full of a few too many picks, basically saying if the Bears don't move out of the way of this, they're not going to be able to keep their sixth round picks. Like, it's they're they're just gonna run out of roster spots, which is a good place to be. I mean, the moment you're doing that, you're obviously doing something at least fairly right. But I also think it is worth considering that if you, let's say, if you drafted 10 first rounders each season, very quickly you run out of places to put everybody on the 53. Um, like you're saying, Case, you want a difficult 53-man roster to make. So maybe the Bears just slow play it and have no problem with this. But I'm just wondering what Poles is going to do because I don't know. I guess a lot of it depends. I'll tell you what, if the Bears are 7-2 at the deadline, we're dreaming, right? But if the Bears are 7-2 at the deadline, then obviously a deadline acquisition makes a lot of sense. Go, guys, go. But if the Bears come out much flatter than that, and they're like 3-6 at the deadline, it's probably a good thing that they didn't trade for Jonathan Allen. So a lot of this is results. Man, Taylor, I would love a little more. I would just love a little more. Like Paris Johnson can play, no doubt about it. But we go sidestep and we're cut off. Somebody else flushes Dobbs out, but not enough. I mean, maybe you could say that there's a little. Actually, yeah, I think that there's a piece of this that's a natural chip. And I say this because I love the offensive architecture, not because I'm trying to defend Taylor more than it's worth. But like 31 denies the wide lane, and the moment that he pushes in towards that's not Paris. The moment he pushes in towards that tackle, his rush is done. You and me both, that guy. But for what it's worth, you got to remember that like Hunter starts a butterfly effect, and the moment that you get Hunter, you don't get Allen. The moment you don't get Allen, you probably have to trade up for Rome. The moment you trade up for Rome, who else did you not get? Because I actually kind of like I kind of mess with this whole draft class. Won't be real. It's a small draft class, but I thought the second worst pick, worst being Karan, like it's not bad. He's developmental tackle. He's just not gonna pop that early. I thought trading up for Booker was unnecessary. Can I be real with you guys? I've always been a believer that defensive linemen after the fourth are, especially edges, are such a massive gamble that why are you taking it at all? And now you traded a fourth away so that you could pick Booker. Was this so that we could feel better? Was what I said to myself. And no, it turns out, at least so far through the preseason, the guy's a monster. So glad I'm wrong on that one. That's for hopefully that's for darn sure. Just because statistically, guys picked there so rarely become Max Crosby. And that's the thing, Rob. Booker. So the problem that I have is that if you run, hand up, do we have a lot of people that run PFF mock draft simulators? Also, second thing, please like the stream. Thank you. Um, but so seriously, they traded more for Ritter, right? But so do we remember? So if we've run a bunch of PFF mock draft simulators in here, Rob, there's always a name or two that end up at like the high third round. There's then another name that's at like the high second round, and then there's usually another name that's always available in the high fourth round. Like, I'm not telling you that I'm not telling you that that guy's bad. I'm telling you that there's always one guy who's like, the Bears are picking in the 65s, and then this guy is rated like 50th on PFF's big board, and he's there in, for some reason, every draft at the position that you need. And that was Booker in this last year, where he was so highly rated on PFF's board and he was available that so many people picked him that I couldn't help but think, Rob, when I was thinking, or when I was like getting prepped for the action or for the draft, that most people wanted Booker because he was the name that they knew the most. Less because they thought Booker was a beast, and that may not have been you, but I thought there was a whole bunch of people that were saying, I think they got to get this Austin Booker guy from Kansas. It's because the last time they ran the mock draft simulator, that's who was there. So I thought a lot of his hype was just manufactured off stuff like that. No, it turns out he's just a baller. Good on you, Rob. What'd you see, Trav? There we go. There's like a little something. Nothing to get too excited about. Wide lane rush, turn it into a little speed to power, make him or make the quarterback a little uncomfortable. The hard thing to remember with all these guys is that almost always your designated pass rushers, and especially your rotational pass rushers, they're not going to have that much crazy to them, because if they did, they'd play more minutes. Like, pass rusher is obviously a mission critical position. So the moment you're any good at it, you tend to get a lot of playing time. Montez Sweat is paid $25 million. This guy got traded for a 6th round pick. You got to stay realistic about what that means. Not me trying to be a downer. It's more to say, what you want to talk about, like Hall of Fame former 2nd round picks. Hall of Fame, I'm being tongue in cheek. Like, you want to talk about former 2nd round picks, you're talking about as many Dante Pettis as you are anything else. I didn't hear it, Rob, but if he said that, it wouldn't shock me at all. Man, look at this safety. I love NFL football. Bang. I'm right there with you, Travis, where I was about to mention I appreciate that with Taylor, the first couple steps look nice and vicious. He turns into a little more of a pumpkin as he starts to make contact, but those first few steps are strong. And here, as he bends the edge, he draws a holding call. Here's a better view. He's definitely a spark plug. He's got energy. Which one, Southside? Over or under of what? And yeah, that guy, I figure if he can just do this, like, here, look at this. This is a nice snap jump. He's the first one up. Go, baby. Just make things noisy. Like, in my experience, sometimes being a pass rusher, all you got to do is just get in the quarterback's eye line. And that's something that I fully expect Dexter and Billings should be pretty solid at. But I'm also always just a massive fan of Andrew Billings, pretty much any way it comes. And so I think what Billings tends to do right in front of the quarterback has to always look scary. Scary interior guys are scary, man. Who's 53? He's flying around. Oh, it's Boye Mafe, isn't it? Man, isn't that fun? I think that's fun. Look at this. Oh, this is see you later. That's Paris. Oh, I want to watch that again. This is Boye Mafe. This has nothing to do with the Bears. This is just enjoying football. Hit him with that. Oh, I'm going inside. Actually, I am not. And I will catch you on the flip. That's a beautiful rush. That's one of those where Boye there had planned that left and right. Like, he'd planned that and planned that and planned that. Pulls it off in a game, and he's amped up. How you doing, D? We'll close up here soon. We have to. All right, my skin is gonna fall off. Don, I don't think I've asked you directly. How did your son move on? Has he adapted well to the new era? Or is there still some residual sadness? I always wonder how the really younger fans handle it. Man, Zoe, that would be awesome. Did Madden really help with Caleb that much? Is it because he gets to play as Caleb? Huh. I really hadn't thought about it. I really hadn't. I thought Hard Knocks and 1920, and for some reason, I don't know why. I don't know if you guys felt like this. I'm a grown man. I, I'm I'm a man. I'm 30. Watching Caleb on the pivot was awesome. That pivot interview is still one of my favorite things that Caleb did in this entire offseason cycle. And the dude wore a Bears jersey in Hard Knocks a lot. So I feel like that's saying something. I felt like those guys asked Caleb some really good questions. And Caleb was really open and honest about exactly what he was thinking about, exactly what his process was, and everything within that. I thought Ryan Clark and the guys at the pivot really killed it. If you haven't watched or listened to that podcast, I think it's well worth your time. It's like an hour, maybe an hour and a half of Caleb just going through what life was like at USC and how he got to where he got. And it's before the draft, so he's not allowed to talk about the Bears. Um, something, but it was good. It was really good. It sure felt that way, Rob. Oh my goodness. Holy smoke. Oh my word, man. Oh, did we see this? This is a hospital ball. Holy smokes. Like Case. Oh my goodness. Rondale Moore, are you alive? Like, oh gracious. Wow. I can't believe he catches this. I can't believe Rondale catches that ball. That is ridiculous. Jeez, don't make him play another snap after that. They're going to hand him the ball. He's so good, Case. So, fun fact, Case. During that draft class with Witherspoon, I remember I started digging into the DBs for building the board, and he was the first one I watched. I went, he's pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty good. This guy can play, but I need to watch more guys. So let me see if my eyes deceive me. And then I watched a bunch of other DBs, and I went, he's bad, he's bad, he's bad, he's bad, he's bad, he's bad, hang on. And then I went and watched Witherspoon again, and I was like, oh, he's just really good. Like, my eyes got set way up here immediately. And everybody else I had to adjust to get back on a level playing field. It was one of those like, oh, I didn't realize I started with the best roller coaster first. Oh, what is this throw? Jeez. We we miss. We miss very bad. We miss so bad that the receiver behind didn't know whether or not the ball was coming to him. Sure, there are a lot of these. Dobbs plays a very out of control brand of football. Like, I mean, he will just throw it. I guess kudos to him there. But like, y'all, I swear, the more All-22 you watch, college and pro, like, as a fan of defense, of course, I want 20 to come down with this, right? But I don't know how you guys feel. The more tape I watch, the more you see that ball sail over 14 is the moment you go, oh no, where is it going? Everything has to be so controlled and so precise. Yeah, dude, I loved Gonzalez. That guy, I forgot to answer you. I don't know how you watched Gonzalez and didn't love him. I'm gonna be real. I really couldn't tell you what 15-16 defensive. I couldn't tell you what 15-16 teams are thinking. I mean, I can tell you I know what they're thinking. They're thinking that he's soft on the run. And I'm just sitting there thinking he was so strong against the pass. It's kind of like the Joey Porter Jr. thing, where Joey Porter also fell in the draft because he was soft too. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, okay, yay, free sec. I'm not going to tell you, because it's not fair, that I don't know. You watch some corners, and some corners, it's clear that they don't want to be involved in the run game. Joey Porter was one of those. And then let me see. Joey Porter was one of those. Witherspoon was also, but not as bad, I think, as Joey Porter, who just wanted nothing to do with the run game. But JPJ was so good when the ball was in the air and in open space that I looked past it because that's my brand of football is I want my DBs to be really good in coverage. What you do in the run game is a bonus. There are going to be guys like Travis that are going to cringe when I say that because a lot of them want their DBs to be force players in the run game. And I think there's value to that. That's like my whole argument with Juju Brents. Is he's so good at the run game that I'll take what I can do. Like I'll take what I can get in coverage and basically play with the safety over the top of him when I absolutely have to. But for round one corners, I want a guy that can cover. Like now, granted, you're also looking at the guy who thinks that the best value is almost unilaterally at round two corners for that exact reason that you get a little bit of both more often than not. Seahawks defense because we're watching 52 fuzz, no worries. We're watching Darrell Taylor, and he's fine. He's basically cheap Yannick Ngakoue. And frankly, I don't know if he's as good. Well, I don't know if he's as good as what Yannick was. Who Yannick is, yeah, I think he's fine. And by that I mean Taylor can do that. Fuzz, I got you. But we had to watch at least a little. We didn't watch any of the defense, and we're probably not going to, unless you guys badger me to next week. It's fine. We can. It's preseason week 3. So we're kind of in this state where since July, we've been pretending that there's film worth watching. But yeah. And the other thing is that guy, one thing that's been a mess for me is going back and forth between like, am I just going to make the stuff that I can make and kind of want to make, or am I going to make the stuff that's going to do well online? The unique breakdown was exactly the kind of thing that I knew would do fairly well online, and I knew that because I slanted it as positively as I could slant the unique breakdown, and then he was awful, and I felt like I'd Robert Quinned myself again. And I was like, dang. Because at the end of the day, I'm really not trying to gas anybody up more than anything deserves. The funny part is, I made that video on centers about Whitehair and Patrick, and I was right about the idea of studs and duds across the league. I mean, I think Coleman Shelton looks exactly like the good dud center that I was talking about. The problem is Whitehair and Patrick both looked terrible. And so instead of studs and duds, they were just awful. And so, boy, it is crazy, isn't it, Case? But I mean, at the same time, a good dud is Bradley Bozeman, Zariah. A good dud is some guy you've never heard of. That if you and I looked up PFF charts, we'd see that it's some UDFA or it's a fifth or sixth rounder, and he plays good ball and he's assignment sound and he gets help on a double team whenever he's up against a really good player. Like Zariah, the aim here is that the dud is a really cheap player that does his job and handles pass protection well. The dud is not also a stud. The studs are studs. The Creed Humphreys, the Jason Kelseys, etc., 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 they're all up here. But just because you drafted Garrett Bradbury does not mean that he's going to be Tyler Linderbaum. And so when you draft a first rounder center and he's fine, you can get that level of fine from a sixth rounder. That kind of thing. Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much, Zarash. I actually am hoping that Shelton will look like a great dud already. In the preseason, I thought he certainly did, but we'll see. Is Mustafa PJ Mustafa or Sam Mustafa? Case. Oh. Well, Case, I feel weird about it. Cause like, oh, Taylor, do we get lit up? Seriously? Oh, we get lit up. We don't set the edge at all here. That's too bad. Ta- Taylor, my guy, I'm starting to see why the Seahawks traded you. Like, this is just week 7, and I'm not trying to be that guy. I don't want to fight, but like, damn, we can do better. Hey, it's fine. The Bears have him on a cheap contract for a 6th round pick, and all he's got to do is be a fun little spark plug. But I mean, we've watched darn near the whole game. I've watched like 20 snaps. That's about as good as it's getting, which is fine. We didn't get any better from Unique last year, so I'm comfortable with low expectations. I've got no misgivings about this. But we've allowed a rushing touchdown, among other things. We have generated a pass rush holding call. We love that, and we did tap the quarterback on the back, and then he threw an interception. So even just being there is definitely helpful. Come on, show us a little something. Yeah, right, TB. Uh, I don't know anything about Chris Williams, and I'm just gonna let him play before I think too hard about him because I don't know if he has any real NFL snaps, and I just try not to get too tied up, at least right now, in case in snaps that aren't what's the word like. The problem is that if you watch too much like preseason, you can get a feel for how the guy moves, but if you're not there every day in camp, I think it's really hard to know from practice how a guy looks and feels based off scattered clips, especially because it becomes really Rorschach-y. You see what you want to see. 10 to 20. It's a pin your ears back and rush kind of down set. Taylor feels like he's got burst, but also he struggles using it. Whoop. Coverage down. Looks tired always. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, let's close. Okay, hang on. What is this? Throw it on the ground, stamp it out. But what was it? Are we like drinking? Are we drinking a beer? Is it like shotgunning a beer? Throw it on the ground, stamp it out? It could be. Gonna need to ask him about it. Maybe, but if it's a cigar, that's a very weird cigar. But yeah, Taylor comes off the chip. Honestly, the tackle just overplays it. But like, hey, you gotta take what you get. It's a good rep. But also, it's mostly the tackle just screwing up. But we take those. Chase down the quarterback, make a play on it. Yeah, sure. It really was, Zarash. Fields, tell you what, Zoe. Fields was like I'm happy with where things are. Fields caught some nasty breaks. Over the course of Fields' tenure, he was involved in a lot of weird ones. Like Fields' tenure was a little cursed. The Cassius Marsh thing, I still think Claypool should have caught or at least try a DPI in Miami. I could probably name more. All of the Velus, like all of the Velus Jones stuff. Yeah, it was tough, DG. I'll tell you what I think is bad. Seriously, Jay, I feel that. Donald, I'll tell you what I thought was really sad. So I'll close on a question that guy mentioned earlier because it's a good question. But I'll close up this bit, DG. What I thought was really sad about the QB schools like Fields breakdown was I didn't think Fields' tape was as bad as JT made it sound. I just thought JT finally sounded like he didn't have that much hope it was going to get any better. Does that make sense, DG? Like, we watched a bunch of games where we said a bunch of the same things. But in 2023, there were too many games where you turned on the tape, you said, we're staring at him, and that is open. Like, it's, we go, why aren't we throwing that? And then the week after that, we'd go, why aren't we throwing that? And the week after that, we'd go, of course we didn't throw it because we were just used to it. In this breakdown, it felt like something in JT's soul dropped down a level and he just couldn't act like it was going to get better anymore. So I don't know what that means, but it was a real shame because I do like Fields. I wish the best for him. And frankly, to be very blunt, I know a lot of people also really like Fields, like the leader, the person, et cetera, et cetera. And I know what it feels like to cheer for a player and still kind of follow that player to, in my case, it was Jay to Miami. And then Jay kind of sucks in Miami. And you start to feel like you start to look back on the years that you spent rooting for him. You start to wonder, was that a mistake, et cetera, et cetera. Especially if you're on the younger side and you've never been through it before. I don't know. My heart's with all the people. Like the main thing that I look at is my heart is still with all the people that are not over things, because you can say a lot of things about Justin, but Justin is probably one of the only Bears players that especially Bears quarterbacks, that I have seen Chicago move on from too early. They moved on from Foles fairly late, all things considered. Even that was sort of messy. They moved on from Mitch a full year late. You could argue they moved on from Cutler 2 years late. And I love Jay. It's more that they really worked to hang on to Cutler in times when I thought they would have easily reset things. Then they grab Fields. They are behind on their rebuild, so they have to tear the team down in his second year. And then in his third year, they give him enough of a team to get an evaluation. I really do believe that. And suddenly 1 year is enough. I would understand anybody feeling like Justin didn't get a fair shake. I think it's the NFL. I think you start 37 games and you have 10 total wins, and people are going to look at that sideways no matter what. I know that's brutal. I know that's not fair. I'm aware. But the NFL is a brutal business run by brutal people looking for any reason to doubt you. And there are a lot of quarterbacks that didn't get 37 games one way or another. But let's see. I think you're right, Case, but I don't know. Let's see. Because people are kind of wusses about moving on from quarterbacks. But at the same time, I don't know. They may have done like a true competition because TB17, I think Bagent's good, but I think that starting Bagent over Justin would have just taken guts. I mean, gotta remember, this is a guy who had the whole stadium chanting his name in Week 17 in Atlanta in a game that I think DJ Moore looked unguardable, and that's half the battle. But it doesn't matter. It's not that I'm trying to strip things away from Justin, but anyways, yeah, there really wasn't, Eric. Nothing in there. But all this to say that I'm still super stoked about where the Bears are going. I like where they are right now. We obviously don't know what that's going to be, and a lot of that starts in a couple days. But for anybody who still feels like things feel kind of unresolved with Justin, I'm not surprised. Justin is the first time basically that the Bears were proactive, I think, in moving on from somebody. And for anybody who feels like, why did Mitch get 4 full years and Justin only got 3? I get it. If I can be honest, Iceberg, I was on really thin ice after that second game. I mean, I understand that I don't know. All kinds of people have had bad games. I get it. But there was something about getting obliterated by Green Bay, playing one of the worst games of your life against a very beatable Tampa Bay team. Y'all, like in Tampa Bay, had Justin played any better, they win. That Buccaneers team was listing. It took a pick 6 at the end of the game for the Bucs to win by 10. Have we thought about this? No pick 6, a field goal drive, and that game is tied. And that's with Justin playing really poorly for 3.5 quarters. So if we play any better than that, the Bears could have easily won 23-20, which is not that much. But they were one game shy of playing for the playoff spot in Green Bay. Every win counts. It makes me sad. But then after that, I agree, Eric. It's like it was all of them. Dude, Eric, we don't need to go through it again. That Broncos game, you can't be the guy who loses that Broncos game. And a lot of people will look back and say, yeah, but Justin scored 4 touchdowns. I agree. But also, no worries, Chicago. I'll end up real soon anyways. Catch you later. But so, I'm with you, Donald, but at the same time, I mean, can I be real with you, Donald? I think one of the hardest things to watch in football is dysfunction, right? And that's sort of the word of the Fields era is dysfunction. with the problem being that once you get a little, it propagates everywhere. It's like how people say in basketball, bad shooting is contagious, or in football, they say drops are contagious, right? You get a hint of dysfunction, and to it starts to infect everybody. And I'm going on this rant because one of the things that I have seen with Mitch, and I think we saw with Justin, and I guess we'll find out later, is if Justin can't run anything, like if you're sitting there trying to call a quick pass because Tampa Bay is loading 7 and 8 in the box and daring you to throw it against them, and you have one of the slowest drop back passers in football teed up with a guy who's going to blitz you to death, I'm not shocked that Luke Getsy wanted to call a screen. And if it didn't work, I'm not shocked he wanted to call it again. But also, it is a bad play call, and they did sniff it out. And it is embarrassing when you get housed at the end of a game because your offensive coordinator didn't believe in you. And it's embarrassing when you didn't believe in your guy and you got him embarrassed, and now everybody's laughing about it. None of this is good. This is all dysfunctional. All of this is dysfunctional. It just doesn't mean that we can blame one person for it. It's the 40-40 rule, if you remember that from last year. And Robert, because I'm assuming you didn't, the 40-40 rule is something I like to run with in these cases where under all circumstances, you blame the quarterback for 40% of what went wrong. You blame the offensive coordinator for another 40%. And then the remaining 20, you assign that blame however you want to. The idea of 40-40 is to make sure you're splitting blame, because it's really easy in football, especially football, where we get so emotional about what happened, to just start saying that's only Fields' fault, to start saying, well, that's only DJ Moore's fault. Well, that's only Tyler Scott's fault. Well, that's only Velus' fault. And outside of positions like muffing a punt, where, yeah, it kind of is all Velus' fault, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder than I think people realize to get everything right. And the idea here, Donald, why am I going off on all this? Iceberg, why am I going off on all this? The hope is that Waldron looks better than he is, because the hope is that with Caleb's ability to move around in the pocket, the natural abilities that he possesses, but also his drive to be a positive drop back passer and the skill that the Bears have on the perimeter, that you get harmony as opposed to dysfunction. Harmony being the play call is bad, but Caleb made it work. The play call is bad, but Rome caught it anyways. The play call is good, and Caleb screwed it up, but Rome made it work. The play call was good, and Caleb did a great job overcoming that Keenan Allen ran it wrong. Like, you get a lot more, hopefully, people picking each other up as opposed to bad bringing each other down. So, I don't know. Truly don't know. But that's the hope. We've seen a lot of dysfunction, and we know what it looks like. I'll never forget that 2020 Foles season where there was nothing Nick Foles could have done from keeping that team from looking like one of the worst teams in football. One of the worst teams in football. But we'll see. Sunny days are here for now. And I'll tell you what, Donald, can I just go ahead and say the thing? I think you're going to hate this. Okay. Let me see. Like, I don't think, Donald, that you're going to like me saying this, but I do think you're going to agree with me, ultimately. There are a lot of proud Bears fans out there that if you gave them the option, they would rather beat their chest proudly declare that they are a Bears fan and that they're brave enough to take on the Packers. And I will tell you right now that I am so glad that Papa Goodell stepped in and said, no, we all want Caleb to work. This is what I believe. You can tell me otherwise, and I'm just not going to let you. Like, Papa Goodell said, you're not going to play the Packers early. You're not going to play the Lions early. You're not going to play the Vikings early. We're going to put all that stuff at the end of the schedule because you are not ready for that yet. Because I have been through this so many times. And that early season game against the Packers, there's always a September Packer game. There's been a September Packer game for as long as I can remember. And the Bears just get their all of their teeth, they just get kicked into the back of their mouth. Like, the Packers have ruined so many seasons. Fight me and tell me that if the Bears had lost to the Saints in 2019, that the whole thing doesn't implode the way that it did. Like, I mean, the 23 debut, the 2019 debut, in 2020, I believe there was a fairly early Packers game. Like, there's always this early Packers game in December, the Glennon game, where Mitch ends up getting the starts afterwards. I can name you so many games where the Packers just ruined the Bears season before it started. And as much as I'm here to beat them, because screw the Packers, I'm fine avoiding them. I'm fine planning around them. Because the Bears have lost the last 10 games in a row. I'm just not going to act bigger than... I'm not going to act like the team is bigger than it is right now. That being the Bears. That's okay. I'm saying that you can go into the Packers game 6-3 and come out 6-4 if you play your cards right, which sounds like a lot. But the Bears are going to be playing some of the worst teams in football. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's a must, but you got to beat the Colts. I'm not going to say you have to, but if you beat the Colts and the Panthers and the Patriots and the Commanders, you just got to take 2 wins off of Tennessee, Houston, Los Angeles at home, the Jaguars, and the Cardinals. 2 out of those 5, and you are 6-2. Or 2 out of those 5, and you're 6-3. Then, I can't remember what they do. I think they may have a bye. No, I don't think they do. And then you play the Pack at home. So is it a given? Nothing's a given, right? Beating the Commanders isn't a given. Beating the Patriots isn't a given, I guess. But that's the thing, Robert. When I look at this, I personally think that Roger Goodell and the Bears are absolutely trying to protect. I really don't. I don't think football is fixed. Okay, I think it's too fast a game. I think guys get lit up too hard. I think the more that I watch it, the more that it's obvious to anybody with eyes that football, the game, isn't fixed. But I do think that the Bears got as close to a fixed schedule as the NFL could afford. I think personally that there's nobody that wants this Caleb Williams thing to work more than Roger Goodell. I think the amount of money the league stands to make if Caleb becomes a star in Chicago is much more than people are putting together. If Caleb becomes a star, the NFC comes alive again. And one of the most, one of a market in Chicago that is obsessed with their football and is a total powder keg right now goes off like a massive, massive bomb. Like, I mean, truly iceberg. I think they want Caleb to be, if not the, one of the faces of football. I mean, you got to remember, the Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer. So if Caleb within 3 years completes a 4,000-yard passing season and a 30-touchdown season, I mean, he's already going to be considered the best quarterback in Chicago at that point. And so I'm more saying all this to point out, not, it sounds fake, but I'm saying all of this because that level of potential superstardom gets you on TVs. And when it gets you on TVs, I think you get extra calls. And when you get extra calls, like for instance, TB17, I'm going to challenge you here. There's already a moment in the preseason where the refs helped out Caleb, I think, pretty blatantly. Can you remember it? It's pretty easy. I mean, it's only been 2 games that you're really pouring through. But for as much as I would love to tell you that, here, I'll give you 5 seconds. And chances are you're going to type it just as I'm mentioning it. Like, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. But I definitely think that defensive holding against Gerald Everett was pretty soft. Like, I think the pass interference, you got a DB that grabs and basically horse collars a running receiver. That's going to get a call nearly whenever. But the defensive contact downfield or whatever it was, the 5-yarder that extended the drive against the Bills, gave us the Kmet throw. And that was a third down that did not happen. That was a third down that was a touchy penalty, and otherwise it's an incompletion. And so I hope the Bears keep getting more of those. If the Bears get a couple extra calls against Tennessee, then yeah, they should be 4.5-point favorites. But I mean, you can't count on the refs. No, I got you, TB. I knew what you meant. I did. But anyways, all that to say, if Caleb gets the superstar calls, I'll tell you what. I defended it a lot because I think Justin is incredibly hard to tackle. If Caleb slides and somebody does that thing where they go into him anyways and then touch him up in the head, they're liable to get thrown out of the game. Like, they being the defender. You will not convince me that Caleb is not going to get the superstar treatment because he is. What do you want me to say? Like, anyways, we'll see. That guy, if you're still here, he asked earlier, what's up with corners? Is it true that defenses don't put their best corner on the opponent's best wide receiver? And the response I have to you is, I have never seen them do that. Maybe they used to a little more, but most of the defenses that I've seen lately just work off of the concept of RCB and LCB, and that's that. And Jalen, for instance, is going to play over here. And then Tyreek is going to play over there. And you'll get some guys like Gordon can move around a little bit, but the overwhelming majority of those defenses are going to play with corners in pretty static positions. So that some of it's for disguise, some of it's just because why would you have them keep moving around? They're going to get lost. And the moment they get lost, you get punished. But it does mean that, generally speaking, if a smart offensive coordinator thinks through everything, they end up with a lot more freedom in how they end up with a lot more freedom. Or a smart offensive coordinator ends up with a lot more freedom in how he deploys his wide receivers and the matchups that he gets. Paul, yes, Peanut did follow around Calvin Johnson in the good old days. A lot of those corners did, but they were built different. And also defensive schemes were a lot more man-heavy. So in man-heavy defenses, you will have a lot more of those guys following people around. But Paul, since the advent of match zone, or at least the popularization of Sabanism, which is all rip Liz and match zone, you get a lot more guys that are within their positions. Yeah, Case, exactly. JJ followed. Case, that Johnson game against Devontae Adams was ugly. Oh my gosh. I am so happy for for Jalen Johnson that he got to try it, but that was ugly. I'm excited for this. There's one player. I'll finish with this. It's like 1:10 in the morning. This is an old school stream where we stayed up way too late. That's what I get for starting at 10. Anyways, there's one player I think Bears fans are not thinking hard enough about. Um, I so I'm a peanut for Hall of Fame guy, but it's purely because I believe that when you revolutionize the game, you revolutionize the game, and that's that, right? Um, I I believe that the fact that people still call it the peanut punch, the amount of turnovers that he had during his time, I think that it is Hall of Fame worthy. Uh, I think it's easy to overrate his actual coverage ability, and I agree with you on that. But I also think that I don't know. I'm a big when you leave your mark on the NFL, you should be in the Hall of Fame person. Um, but it's a 32 team league, and everyone wants their representatives. Anyways, there is one player that I believe that Bears fans look. I will believe this until I'm proven not to, and I might be able to be, and I might very quickly get proven that I'm wrong. Okay, so strap in. But purely off of vibes, there's one player that I actually think Bears fans are overlooking. I really do. On the Bears, I think all of the calls and all of the focus relating to the offense, which is super justifiable. The Bears just spent 2 first-round picks, 2 top 10 picks on offensive players. And they just had an offensive player drafted last year, and they had DJ Moore, and they just traded for Keenan Allen. I get why we're so focused on offense, right? Shane Waldron, all the buzz has been offense. Offense, 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 offense. TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds really found something at the end of last year. Andrew Billings looks like a hoss. And Javon Dexter, if he can fill a role alongside Montez Sweat, who looks like a beast, is that defense is congealing in a big way. Tyreek Stevenson could play a little bit. Kevin Byard lets Jaquan Brisker be a tank in the box. Kyler Gordon is kind of a pain. I mean, he's a buzzard. But the player that I left out on purpose might be a top 3 corner in the NFL this next year. I don't know how many great seasons Jalen Johnson has left in him because he's not that fast. So when it fades, it will fade quickly. But if you think about it, the buzz about Jalen is so dangerously good that if he's really been locking down DJ Moore and Keenan Allen the way that they have said he's locked them down, then that attitude of right now, like, great job, defense, offense, it's not your fault. Ooh, that could carry. Because I hope, obviously, that the Bears' offense is better than they've shown in some of these feature showings. We'll see. But I know other offenses, especially the early offenses on the Bears' schedule, don't have a lot of the firepower that the Bears are bringing. So if the Bears have prepped all offseason with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, and they go up against a team that doesn't have a tight end, Tyler Boyd, and Calvin Ridley and whatever's left of D-Hop, oh man. Like, that's got to be crazy, case. Truly, Zoe. I mean, man, mimic the Legion of Boom. It's why I want a pass rusher so bad. I think their back seven is bananas, and it's the kind of back seven that makes me wonder what's the limit here. I don't know. I really don't know, and I'm not trying to be too freaky. It's more like Zoe. I think personally that every offense of the league is as ready as you can be for a defensive line to wreck the football game. But really good defensive backs. So, really good defensive backs don't give you a lot of choices. Like, what's the plan? Throw less? Yay. Yeah, no, Fuzz, I'm not surprised because Dexter was a thicker, bigger guy, and then Pickens was a smaller, leaner guy, and they changed, and then they put one at one tech and the other one at three. If I had to guess, like when you tell me how do I compare Dexter and Zach Pickens, I think Pickens has a naturally quick first step and that he's got long arms that he uses relatively well. Some people disagree with me, but that's what I saw on his US or on his South Carolina tape. Dexter is naturally strong as an ox and he's not that explosive, but he's extremely strong in his core and translates it really naturally to his arms. And which is part of why I thought he'd be such a solid one tech. The Bears saw that and said if we develop his explosiveness a little bit, he's going to be a monster. And you know what? On some downs, they're totally right. Like when Dexter gets it right, he looks like a buzzsaw. So that's good. But I do wonder if there's just an element of the situation that's come at the cost of Pickens' development, which I mean, you live with that, right? If it's between Dexter, the higher pick, and Pickens, you pick Dexter. But I don't know. We'll see. I hope Dexter has a good year. Bears need him to. But we won't find out today. We won't find out tomorrow. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. It's always good getting to just sit, talk some ball for a hot minute. New Bear with us. It should be up later this morning. But we will get there and then we'll hang out. Cool. Thanks so much. Check in soon. Like the stream. Bear down. Thanks for bearing with me, fans. Fam. Epic Pen is killing me. The stream really doesn't want to end. How cute. That's not what I expected. Thankfully, I have a kill switch ready. We must. We must. Man, if Jalen hits that Kenny Moore roll, that's some built different material. There we go.